that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Welcome, everybody. This is Team Rabbit Hole Edition 290 with Zoe Cassell. Planet News by Zoe. Astrologer, Mystic, West Coaster, Cancer. Quadruple Cancer, as I just heard. Join the team as we get to know Zoe, an evolving soul learning how to map the Tao. She's gone from ego student to teacher of the zodiac, so sit back and enjoy getting splashed by the waters of her intuitions. Welcome and well met, Zoe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For sure.
Nice
I
to
mean,
be
I was
here.
just looking at your chart. It's like sun,
Ugh.
moon, Venus, and Mars in Cancer, all within like a degree of each other almost. So it's like, wow, super resonant
That's
to what I'm
huge.
about to say. So welcome aboard.
Thank
Something we do here on the episodes of Team Rabbit Hole, at least probably until the 300th, like I said, I might switch the I Ching instead of doing this because I've done it for 300 fucking episodes. And Raphael's like, change up your game, man.
Especially because you're only rotating 10
It's the
cards.
mechanics of the thing. It's not me,
Well,
bro.
you could do it
It's the
differently,
Mayan
but
calendar gear shifter.
yeah.
It is what it is. The teeth go where the teeth go. And in any event, I take the number of this episode 290, reduce it, so that's 11, turns to 2. 2 is the High Priestess card, but of course, I offer up the mysteries of life. The High Priestess is about trusting your intuition, listening to your inner guides, understanding yourself better, listening to the music of the universe, and allowing creative ideas to germinate. Raphael, what do you got? You'll have to tell us, obviously. He's always doing this like leg reveal, and I'm like, all right, wow, what's behind the curtain?
Well, you talk about intuition, so what could this possibly be?
I don't know, man. It's a great card deck. What is it?
This is the star.
Oh, yes, perfect. We were just
So
talking
we
about
have
Aquarius. The moon's about to pop into Aquarius, 17 star card. There you go.
Yeah, so 17, we have, I should actually even know the astrologer. Yeah, it is Aquarius.
I know, that's why I said that.
Yeah. So you're correct. So the Crowleyan definitions are wishes fulfilled, hope, reflection, faith, unexpected help. Oh boy, can we need that. Realization of possibilities and spiritual insight. So
And just look behind her head. There's a star.
Oh yeah, indeed.
So I'm curious, Zoe, between the High Priestess and the Star card, what, if anything, pops synchronistically or resonantly for you?
Right now, I'm just, to be honest, nothing's popping. I'm just listening to you two.
That's goddamn honest.
I'm,
If I, you're like crickets,
well, that's how it.
crickets.
No, that's how it is for me.
Mm.
I don't try to
You're
make
a moon
things
child.
pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
If we're in
Things are
void, of
gonna
course,
come.
moon, and
Oh, I know.
that I
And
think
I'm
that
all
means
moon, right? So
yeah,
things
yeah,
have to pop when they pop. So
yeah.
right now, I'm like, I'm just excited.
I'm stoked that you're excited. So to me, I'll just say quickly, the fact that you have so much watery intuitiveness, High
Whew.
Priestess makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of lifting the veil, being that feminine conduit of the mysteries. But also on top of it, like he was saying, the star card, the moon's about to pop into Aquarius probably in the next 30 minutes while we're talking.
Yes.
I'm born on June 17th, which is 17 resonator for me, but sun and moon, Gemini, depending on your house system, 11th house sun for sure, and Jupiter in Aquarius. So and Raphael's got a north node in Aquarius. So Aquarian energy doth reign supreme here. So
Totally.
there's things that
My
sync up for me.
7th house. Yep.
Oh yeah,
It's my 7th house.
So all right. So yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know much about you. I just saw you kind of posting things. I don't see. Internet's weird, right? Where it's like
It is.
I'm not sure how I stumbled upon you, but I did, and I started paying attention, and you picked my interest enough to be like, "What Pokemon is that? Let's talk to that Pokemon." So, give us a kind of rundown of, where you grew up, the culture you were part
Sure.
of.
Sure.
when you started turning on to your gifts or intuitions, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
You can be as long-winded or short-winded as you prefer, but we would love to hear your kind of
Oh,
origins
when
myth.
well, when I was young, having all that water intuition, you could feel other people's energy. I didn't even know it was happening, but I just felt very heavy. Like,
Mm.
why am I always like feeling so much energy from everyone? So if I would go, say, to a place where there's a lot of people, I was just overwhelmed,
Hmm.
like panicked. But over time, I was always searching, what is this? Why am I so different? Why am I not like everyone else? It felt like I was somewhere else, and I could pick up on people and what they're thinking. I could feel what they're thinking before they even say it. So to me, I just kept searching, like, I need some answers with this. This is a lot, you know,
Well, what was your
it's a
cultural
lot.
context? Did you have siblings? Were you telling them these
I had,
intuitions? Are your mom and dad
yes,
like,
I
fundamentalists,
had
or what's going on?
Well, my parents, my mother's a Buddhist, and my dad,
Word.
he's not, he's a military. He's definitely believes in God, but there's no religion.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like a little bit of a crazy household. So I would just pick up on everyone's energy in the household. My mother was very much a strong Buddhist, so I could not go into other worlds. But Buddhism is a great start,
Super
right?
practical. Super
It's super,
practical.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's
I
about
look at it as I mean, I say it's a
it's
philosophy. I'm
beautiful.
not just like
It's a
taking the corner here.
philosophy,
It's
right?
not
It's a
so much a religion
philosophy.
because it's like atheistic or at least agnostic, I guess, inherently.
Yeah.
Siddhartha or whatever's like, I don't know if there's a god, but here's the path to escape the matrix. Um,
Right, right.
it gets weird. So, but okay, so your dad was kind of a military thing. Were you
Yeah, yeah.
what slot of siblingry were you? Oldest, youngest, middle kid,
I
or
was
how'd that work?
actually the third sibling in
Of
in 4 brothers and
I'm the oldest
sisters.
of
So
four,
1
so I
brother,
feel
3
yeah.
girls. Lots of
Oh boy,
energy with the female energy there. So my mother was very, very like, you must study Buddhism and only be in this practice. And it actually was the beginning of my spiritual journey because I
was there a
was
certain
searching.
flavor of that? Like, was she like, "Oh, we're going for Zen Buddhism, or we're going for,
I
Tibetan
don't
or
know if
whatever"?
you heard of it, but it's Nichiren Daishonin, which is a
I
it,
have,
it's like
maybe
Zen. Oh, you have? So
peripherally. It sounds familiar.
were brought up chanting. So
Mhm.
we were like chanting, but nobody else around me was chanting. So it was very different. I was always in a different environment, it felt like.
Hmm.
Very much around many women that were chanting. It was beautiful, but
High
I just
Priestess
kept, yeah,
card.
I just kept
Yeah.
searching. Like, I really love the energy of spirituality. You could see it in my chart. It's all 12th house.
Yeah.
So I am just like engulfed in spirituality. Like, I just have to
You're
be.
dripping, as they
I'm
say.
dripping. It's like
Yeah.
crazy.
Getting dry and functioning in a normal reality might be difficult for you in general.
Oh,
Because I
totally.
mean, yeah, I hadn't thought about it. You're a 12th house heavy, Cancer heavy person.
Yeah.
So,
So the only
do you,
where I find my comfort is in like praying and like connecting. And that was the beginning. That was the
hmm,
beginning of my entire journey. Where actually what happened was I started to expand in my gifts and I didn't know what they were. I was just like, why am I seeing your aura? Why
hmm.
do you have this color around you? Like right now I could see your aura and it's a little bit teal.
Mine?
Yeah, that's
Word?
right. Yeah,
Okay, I'm
that's right.
listening to
It's
you. I
like
hear
it's
you.
very
Okay.
beautiful. And then I'm
I'm
just going,
considering
how
how
come
confused I am. I'm surprised it's a nice color. What's Raphael? He's coming on.
No,
He's like, "Hey, he's Leo rising too." He
no,
was
right
no,
now his is not
no.
showing, but
No,
yours
that
is
just
oh,
yours
that
is
yes,
coming
because
out.
you're smoking weed,
mine is
Raphael.
veiled. No, but the point, what I want to ask is, what I'm really curious about. So, would you say for you this is equally possible, or no differentiation whether you see someone in the physical or through a digital means? Because there easily I could say, oh, now it's a bit orange or something because of the lighting. I mean, you could always say that, and I know both from the many interviews I did with Brian Lahr, who made this deck, by the way, who always talks about the different bands, and there's super high detail in this. I'm just always wondering if the translation is exactly the same when you have it on a digital screen. Like, does the information come 100% the
That
same?
is something I'm learning because I'm always growing in it. I'll just be watching TV and I'm like, whoa, I see that person's aura fully. It's orange, and I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same, I suspect, because it looks the same in person. But I'll
All right.
normally I'll start seeing an aura and then I'm like, okay, this is a little different. I'm seeing like colors through a person and I'm hearing their thoughts.
Or
Heavy
maybe
Okay.
shit.
let me ask it like this,
Yeah.
so because my technical mind would now wonder whether, let's say, quote unquote, the camera is picking up on the appropriate frequencies that it could even be represented on the screen. Or, of course, the translation or transmission mechanism is different anyhow, which means that you don't get cued into the aura, even its color or however, through the
Yeah.
screen, but actually through a psychic
Third
connection,
eye.
let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's more psychic, you
Mhm.
know? I
So
mean,
your intuition
that's
is overlaying our images as opposed to the computer screen projecting the aura is kind of what
yeah,
I think he's
I
getting at.
believe so. I mean, it's also by feeling, right? You
Mm,
can
mm.
feel. And you have Jupiter in Aquarius, right? So
I do,
to
yeah.
me, Aquarius is very light blue energy, very cool and, easygoing.
That's brisk,
So
baby.
that's what I'm seeing right there. I see
Right.
this teal aura coming off your shoulders and that's kind of why I started to research like what's going on. I need to know more. And I just kept going and searching until a friend told me about astrology.
Hmm.
And then it just went one day she showed me my chart and it went boom.
Click.
Everything clicked. And I'm like going, I need to know more. And that was the end of it. I
Or
need
the
to know
beginning, as they say.
the end,
So,
meaning my whole
yeah,
life was
very
going to
12th
be a
house of you.
house.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here we go into a new dimension.
Yeah.
So, we don't need to. I mean, I want to kind of get into your. You did a really good job of getting us into the cockpit of your astrological trajectory, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Two things. Auras. I mean, call me crazy, and I don't want to overly reduce this materially. Like, I'm not just like only a material reductionistic person.
Right.
I'm
Right.
spiritually willing or whatever. I mean, I've seen some weird
Yeah.
shit, astral projected and stuff. It's like, what is going on here? Do you look at it as like an electromagnetic shelling that we're like resonating as kind of Tesla coil beings? Um, in
Well,
that sense, does that make sense? What I'm even
I'm
saying? Like,
12th house,
we're
right? So
yeah,
everything is light being to me. So I'm
okay,
going to go through with the light. And I have Mercury in Gemini. So that's
perfecto,
going to put me way up there, and it's in the 11th house, Aquarius. So
gang
I'm going to
gang.
be seeing, yeah, things like that. But then all the Cancer placements are going to go under and then fill you out.
That's what's up. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm always just like picking at things. I don't. It's not thus says the Lord. This is what it is. I'm just always like, how
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
interpret this? Because, in order to present woo ideas to people, like I'm even dealing with this, with, my family and friends, where it's like faith and or belief, if you want to put that in something, is cool, and everybody has the right to do that. I think we're designed to have grappling with faith, but what is real versus what is true, and how do we translate this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe some people, don't have eyes to see, and that's okay, and you can't translate. And like, I've never seen an
Right.
aura, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not against you saying that. I'm not like, how dare
Yeah.
she? It just gets into my head like,
Well,
how is she processing this? So anyway,
it's
yeah.
also gonna be in your chart, right? It
Mm,
depends on where your Mercury placement is. It
hmm.
depends on how intuitive you are. I mean, like with all your air sign, you may be like picking up on different things than I would. So
Correct.
you have to look at. I mean, your charts are gonna
Sleepy
show
ain't
you.
Doc kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like everybody's got a
Yeah.
little kind of different angle on the Dow.
Totally.
All right, so that was one
Totally.
quick kind of divergent posturing on auras, because that's something we have never really talked about. But I've seen people, I think on Vice magazine or something, they were like, there's a machine, if you go to it, you take a Kodak kind of picture and it scans you funny, and like you get printed
Yeah.
out a
Yeah.
picture with your aura. And so to me,
Yeah.
that was like that's a physical property that's being
Carillion
printed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Carillion
Right.
photography. There is, just to explain it briefly, because I also tried it once. At least in
Ooh,
in one method, you actually, like, you put your finger into this device, and I guess it's actually reading like electromagnetic signals from the tip of your finger, and then you get like a chart. At least in the version I had, and you have the chakras, and then they show,
Yeah.
is it aligned or left or right, and at least, because strangely enough, I somehow got into that place, and I mean, we were, I guess, halfway welcome. So I was like, we tried it, and then I was like, well, I got to meditate for a moment because I didn't sleep a lot and my chart was all over the place. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes and then, but I have to do it again, because I have to have a comparison. And at the
Yeah.
very least, it was pretty clear from the readout that you could tell it was like, let's say, the same, but it was just, let's say, 50% or whatever more aligned towards the center. But I could still clearly see the misalignments from the chart before. So it was a clear progression. Yeah. So that was to
Yeah.
me, let's say, at least somewhat of a proof that apparently they're, well, I don't know, measuring
Effects
something
occur.
real,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I am, or at least that I am linear enough that in my case it shows the chart like this, So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I
Yeah.
think that, well,
Go ahead.
like for instance, not everyone can see, but some people might be able to hear. I think I
Oh, I
have
think I
them
hear
all.
music more. Yeah, I
You
tend to get
do?
like ideas and
Yeah,
refrains and noises or whatever. But it's like, how do I know I'm not crazy? Doesn't everybody have this? See, it gets tricky as a monkey to know how to fucking figure it
totally.
out. And
Yeah,
it's like, what's
I had
relatable?
to figure it out myself because no one around me was like me. You know what I mean? It's like it's a little
Mhm.
bit woo-woo, right? And I'm also born on a balsamic moon, which
I
is
think I am too.
Are you really? I have to look at your chart, but
No, I
that's
think I
like
am.
mystic for sure. So
That's
I
the
feel
closing
like
out phase, right?
it's the closing out, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah, I am.
a lot of gifts in there too. So it's like I'm an
So,
old
okay, so your mom was
soul.
Buddhist. How did you? I mean, were you coming to her as the authority, or did you kind of just kind of go, "Thanks, mom,
Oh
for
no.
the basic practical teachings," and I'm going to go to the library now, or whatever, Woodstock, or whatever the fuck you went to do.
Well,
How did you integrate this?
first, when I did want to expand, she was very, very like, no, I want you to stay in this practice.
Hmm.
Whatever her beliefs were, I had to follow. And it
So kind of
shows on my
dogmatic or
Oh
whatever.
gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very much so. So I on my chart, it does show that that was a very difficult time because she would never let me
Well, you got your
expand
Chiron and Aries ninth
the
house,
ninth
right?
house. You
Yeah,
see it?
exactly.
You
It's
see it right
individual
there. So
spirituality wounds. It's
yeah,
like I want to be
yeah.
me, and they're like, "Shut the fuck up,"
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
not fun.
But then all these like gifts were coming out. I didn't know they were gifts. I thought they were curses because it was very difficult, right?
Mm.
You feel heavy when you're picking up on everyone's energy. But somehow through time I seem to have grown out of it and have more control over it, and not everyone's energy is going to go right in me,
Mm.
but if I could tell you the things that I've seen, I hear, I can tell when someone's going to
Well, that's why
pass.
you're here.
I
I'm like, tell us all these
know.
weird shit things.
It's
Okay, so no, you
crazy.
get that kind of premonitory passing veil parting
Oh,
thing.
oh
I
yeah.
have one or two
Oh
friends
yeah.
like that, and I'm like, I mean, that's very 12th
It's
house, right? Where it's like,
very
hey, I
very
know where
12.
their exit point is. So
Yes.
um
Yes.
we're kind of all over the place, but I
Crazy.
don't mind. Let's just keep flowing with it. So tell us a little
Because
about
the moon is
that.
void. We're supposed to be all over the
Yeah.
place. We're going to be
Uh
void for a while.
Sunyata or whatever, the empty
Yeah.
space, the shining void. Um So, how does that work? And not how does that work? How does that feel? I guess maybe I should be asking you, how does that feel to you?
Well,
Yeah. What is your impression of things when you're like,
well,
oh,
there's
a ghost is knocking on the door and here it's your time? Or how's that work?
well, it's crazy. I'm just gonna be honest, it's crazy.
Good
Like
preface.
okay, my brother passed away in 2010. I
Okay.
already I knew that he was gonna pass 2 years before it happened. And I
And like
was even
specifically
like,
how or whatever?
I just
Or just
sensed
like
it.
generally?
First, I looked at his chart and I wasn't a good reader at the time. It was like I just sensed something's up, something's coming for him. And then
Hmm.
when we got towards the end of the 2 years, a little guide told me he's got 2 weeks left, you know, and then boom, 2 weeks later, he did pass. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I saw the entire picture of how it was going to play out. And this is everyday life for me, how I live. It's like I see things and they just happen. And I'm like, okay, this is a gift to help others with whatever I see to help guide. You know
How do
what
you
I
not let
mean?
that
So,
overwhelm you? I mean, that's
oh,
pretty heavy.
it has overwhelmed me.
It's
It
like sixth sense
has.
shit where it's like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, I see
totally.
dead
I'm like
people.
going, "That's my world." No, it
Yeah.
has overwhelmed me, but I'm embracing it more. But
Mm.
it was like so intense. I mean, if I could tell you, yeah, medical healer. definitely. And when I see that medical healer, the whole reason why I got really into astrology was to help my family. I just want to help,
Mm.
and of course, cancer is family, so I'm going to focus on them first. And it's like, if I could see what's coming, I can help before it happens. You know what I mean? Like, if I
Mhm.
could see a health issue coming, I'm going to guide my mom or I'm going to guide somebody. Like, this is what's up. But what I do love is intuitively, I could see when someone's going to get a new job, they're going to get a bonus. You can see all that in the chart, right?
Hmm.
So I'm like, before it
Come on,
happens, I wanna
lottery.
get
No, I'm
them
kidding.
ready. Yeah, go get some lotto tickets, but it's like, I wanna get them ready, open up their
Mm.
mind because there's possibilities right in front of them. So I've seen many, many good things happen because of the charts. I could tell them, go get that, go apply for that job right now. So this is what I do. I feel like I want to heal people, of course, heal myself in the process. And I love this. It's so fun.
I could
It's
tell you
great.
enjoy it.
Oh, I
Yeah, it's,
do. I
I think Yoko Ono said something like, "Healing ourselves involves healing others," or something to that effect, and it was just like,
totally. It's
yeah, it's a
it's
mutual thing. It's a
exactly.
feedback
That's
loop.
why I do it. Most of it's coming because I wanted to heal myself because I
Right.
that upbringing, like that whole energy, that was hard. That was intense.
Yeah, you got the piss beaten out of you, and then I guess this is the yang to that. It's not fun. It's really hard differentiating and individuating within a culture while still trying to maintain love and boundaries and respect.
Yeah.
Because usually
Yeah.
people overly identify with their ideologies and what so that's the trip. It's like, is it real? Clearly, you guys are acting out your beliefs, but is it true?
Yeah.
And that's maybe a different thing. So I'm
Yeah.
tripped out on that place right now personally. But
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So other than your brother's premonitory death, like what are some kind of other weird things you want to talk about? I don't know. I'm
Well,
kind
if
of
you
lost in
wanna
terms of
talk about
orientation. So I'm
I
like, yeah,
know, if
what do
you
you want
wanna
to
talk
do?
about weird things, okay, so there was a year where my mother, I was like, "Something's up. She's gonna something's not good."
Hmm.
I feel like her health, something's coming. So I felt like 6 months before, she's like, her heart is not doing well. And it's crazy when we got towards that June, she started having heart issues. It's crazy, right? It's like I see it all before it happens. So she starts having heart issues and she's telling me, I mean, I live an intense life. I don't want to. I'm looking for peace at all times, but things come to me. So my mother came to me and said, you know what? I have been having pain in my chest all day and I've already taken, the nitro, that glycerine that you take
Hmm.
when if you're gonna have. So anyway, I said, "Hey, mom, I think we need to go to the hospital now." She's like, "I don't want to go to the hospital." I'm like, "Mom, you don't realize, but you don't have any other choice." So I got her to go to the hospital. My sister took her. 5 minutes at the hospital, she had a heart attack. If she wasn't at that hospital, she wouldn't be here because they did it's
The
crazy. This is my
resuscitation
life,
paddles.
okay? This is
So
my
how do you
life.
look at that? Okay, I'm gonna but Raphael, obviously jump in anytime. How do you look at your responsibility to your gift? Because sometimes with great gifts come great responsibility. So it's like, how do you not
That's
take on
it
a
right
messianic
there.
thing? And how also do you not avoid, I mean, it's like thank Paul Revere that he decided to get on his horse and go and tell everybody. It's like he didn't have to do that. We get choices, it seems. So how do you weigh the choices that you're shown versus like overextending yourself or feeling overly obligated because you can't heal
Yeah,
everybody
yeah. Right,
or
you
save
can't.
everybody.
So,
So
that's
yeah.
something that I'm going through now. I'm
Hmm.
changing where I'm not taking it on so much, but I have a North Node in Aries. I mean, I'm supposed to be a leader, right? So I take
Supposed to kick
things real.
ass. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, this is happening to me because I see my North Node. I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to act. And I'm not supposed to be like the Libra, right?
No
Just
offense,
being peace.
Raphael.
Right? Yeah, in a good way. I'm a South Node
Libra's
Libra.
Bane
I love
decisions.
Libra. So what I do is when it comes to love, because that's the 12th house, I'm gonna do what I need to, and I'm gonna step up. I just
Hmm.
take it very seriously, but that's also because my Saturn is right on my North Node. It's together. So I'm very serious. I'm scared of it, but I'm serious about it too. Yeah, I
Interesting.
I take it. I want
It's
everyone to be happy in my family, so I just grab it and run, and if I make mistakes, then I just make mistakes.
it's 3:33 here in Alabama. So, whatever, it doesn't mean anything, but I'm like, "Ooh, sync numbers, yeah." Um, so because Saturn's on my, I think, basically conjunct my south node, um, which isn't fun in Scorpio, but it makes a little sense where I'm like, I'm dealing with trauma from generations and whatever, dealing with this kind of crap. Like,
A lot
okay,
of restriction and
yeah, a lot of guilt and shame
seriousness.
and heavy stuff. But how do you, like I was asking earlier, how do you look at it? I mean, you kind of answered, but I'm going to press you on it. It's like, given that Saturn and your North Node are conjunct, your North Node, for people who don't know, is more or less your I mean, in Vedic they call it Ketu and Rahu. It's like the head of the dragon,
Right.
so it's like where Pac-Man wants to go eat, as opposed to the tail of the dragon's like, that's excreting. Don't maybe go that way. You've already eaten that.
Yeah.
Your North Node being in Aries, this individualistic kind of action oriented. It's not mean, but I tend to think of Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane being very Aries. It's like he
Yeah.
just chopped the ear off. He didn't really ask questions or assess it, or feel
Yeah.
into it or whatever. Kind of just reacted. Anyway, so you've got this like Aries, Saturn, karma. Snape is kind of how I look at Saturn. It's like, rules, constriction,
Yeah.
order, karma.
Yeah, that's my mom, I
Um,
feel. Just
so given your north nodes on the Saturn, do you feel like you're meant to be a teacher, or do you feel like you're having to like articulate this void space into the thing, or like that's what I mean by what you're saying. You're feeling out what the responsibility means. Like, walk us through how you feel about that, because you can't save everybody. I mean, I guess,
no.
unless you just want to like kind of walk around like a ghost and shout into people's lives, and that's how you get like
Well,
committed, I guess, right? Where you're just like over
Vesta's
interfering.
Vesta's also right next to my Saturn, so I'm also very driven.
Hmm.
It's like excited. I can't help everyone, but I'll do something to try to help everyone in my own way, and that's why Planet News is up, you know,
Right on.
giving giving information that might help somebody. I mean, I'm so driven when it comes to that. I should have quit a long time ago, but because that Saturn is there, I just won't. I am blessed to be in that position, I feel. I don't feel it's a burden. I feel it's more of someone that needs to open up the doors for others,
Hmm.
in any way I can. So I love it personally. I'm like living the life right now.
La Vida Loca.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, we can kind of take this in many directions. I'm trying to think. So you got introduced into astrology. It was Western astrology, I'm presuming,
Western
tropical
astrology. Yeah,
kind
I
of
did
stuff.
study a little bit of sidereal, but I'm more into the Western Placidus.
Hmm.
I don't really study whole signs because when I look at a chart, I like accuracy. And I'm not
Okay.
saying whole sign is not. Most definitely, both have pluses, but I like accuracy. I like to see exactly where the planets are. So if you're like right on an interception, that's going to change your chart a little bit,
Gonna flavor it
So
differently a little.
yeah, it has a lot of information in there. So I like to see every like degree where it's at, and it gives me more just accuracy. I just want to see like where you're
Hmm.
at. But to me, whole sign is also amazing for certain parts, but I just never really, I'm more on the Placidus.
We can't all do it all, which is
I
hard.
know.
I
But
mean, trust me, I get with you. Yeah.
I listen to others that are whole sign, and I'm still learning. I just want to keep learning as much as I can. I can't get
And
enough.
staying optimistic about it is helpful, because to me, I there was a point maybe a year or two ago, more like a year and a half now, when I got a reading from somebody and it was like a draconic chart, and then I mean, let's put it this way. It's like, okay, there's Mayan astrology and there's Chinese astrology and there's Vedic and there's Mesopotamian
So
and there's
many.
yeah, it's
So
like,
many.
okay, so why am I justifying my choice? It just made me question a lot. It's like, why am I
Yeah.
choosing to read Japanese when I could be speaking Korean, or that kind of relative thing. So
Yeah,
how do you, I mean, it seems like you just lean into your intuition and go with it, and
totally.
you're gonna get what you need, as opposed to over processing it here.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
that you don't think, but it's like
you know,
it go ahead.
I feel like I'm starting to lean more into the technical right now
Hmm.
because I'm always going to be intuitive,
Can't
but
not be.
you need to know the technical because there's so much more. that I didn't know before. Now I can
Mhm.
really look instead of my intuition saying, "Oh, this person needs to do this." I could see like, okay, there's more detail, and you won't know unless you study. So I'm an avid studier. Every single day I'm studying, what's going on. So to me, you need to have both actually. You can't just have one.
Correct.
I
It
think you
seems
need
it seems
both.
like one draws you in. Like I was doing a lot of okay,
Yeah.
so I've always been attracted to astrology, but it was more like, oh yes, Gemini, that makes sense. I talk a lot, whatever.
Yeah.
It was very terse and very superficial, but resonant nonetheless. And then I ate a bunch of psychedelics and I was like, holy shit, I'm starting to see like, oh, a
Everything came
Capricorn
alive.
rising has a big forehead, or just like weird things. I was like starting
Oh
to see
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
And then and then like listening to certain astrologers, Kaipacha and a few other people, I was just like, oh, they're jamming. It's archetypal, but there seems
Mhm.
to be mechanics to gird it, like hold it up. But anytime I kind of try to look behind, the like lift the hood, so to speak, it becomes so not overwhelming. Well, I guess overwhelming and confusing to the point where I'm like, I think it's the Jupiter Aquarius. I start revolting. I'm like, who decided this was the truth, or whatever. It's like, wait, what? How's this working? Who's the authority here? And screw
Right,
them. We
right.
got to flip
That's
the
how I
tables.
think. That's how I
Um,
think.
so
We
when you
think
got
out of
turned
the box, right?
largely, when you
Yep.
got turned on to astrology, were there any specific astrologers or schools of thought that you were attracted to or kind of imbibing, and how has that shifted, if at all?
Oh, I didn't even know where to go or who to look for until YouTube started. I started to see a lot of different astrologers. I'm looking into everyone, the Leo King, Raquel
Well, he's been on
Spring.
here. He's cool.
Oh, I know. I like
He's a little ratchet. I love him. He's a 12th house
he
sun,
is.
I think, Leo, but I
He's
think his sun is
he's very
conjunct
close to me
Uranus.
actually.
Oh,
We
word.
don't
Well,
live
shout
there
out.
very far from each other, but he
Well,
doesn't know of me.
well, if I ever come out to SoCal, we will have a field trip and go to a full moon dance party or whatever the hell. It would be fun.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
yeah, it takes all kinds. So okay, so you turned on with the YouTube, the tech kind of. It wasn't like you were going to the library and being like, all right, here's a famous book
Right.
on whatever. It was you were just kind of fiddling about intuitively,
Exactly.
and then it
Exactly.
turned into a tech thing through the internet with YouTube.
Exactly. First, I was looking into KRS channel, uh,
I don't know who that
the
is unless
Vedic
it's KRS-One.
astrologer. I'm sure a lot of them know about him. He's
Cool.
amazing. And then I started to look into what's that astrologer, Rick Levine? I love
He's been
him.
on
He's
here.
amazing. Yeah. Oh, he
Shout out.
has?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did a spring equinox thing in 2020. Uh, that was the spring equinox episode.
Wow.
That was like the 10th or
Yeah.
15th episode. I was just like, hey, I'll throw it out there. We'll see. And they said yes. So shit, we'll roll.
Stephen Forrest. I mean,
I've
whoever
heard
I
of
could just
him.
I just go with what I wanna learn, and I've been,
Hmm.
going about that way, and then I started to actually take classes with
Hmm.
Raquel Spring and, I forget the other female, but that's how I'm doing it. I'm just, like, going with what I wanna learn. So
So
there's
you fall on
so
your
m
nose, so to
Oh,
speak. I
yeah.
mean,
I'm
basically,
living my node right now, totally. Just yeah, North Node in the ninth house.
it's how to rock it.
Eventual teacher, right?
Well, yeah, it's weird because I mean, how would I put it? There was a time when I'm not really. I feel it's disingenuous to charge for things when I don't fully believe in them. So I'm not
Y
really
yeah,
doing cards
yeah,
or
makes
astrology
sense.
right now. But I don't disbelieve in it. I'm just like not. Clearly, I'm like in this weird pickle where it's like, how can I verify this outside of a cultural you know, like if it's circular logic, that doesn't help me. So I'm like, all right, how do I know this is true outside of the culture itself? In any event, it's funny because I had some. I would talk to friends or whatever for like 2 or 3 hours, and they'd be like, "That was crazy. You should charge." So I was like, "All right, whatever, $30." And um, there was a point to where I was going with this. I don't. You were. Oh yeah, it's like we're students of it, and we like pay attention. To, I feel like a kid, like almost the five of Pentacles. If you know the tarot at all, like the people looking in the window during the winter. It feels like I was like
Yeah.
peeking into classrooms, and I've taken notes from them, but I'm not like sitting actually in the classroom. And then now I'm telling people on the back of the school bus, it's like, you guys missed all these classes, but here's my shitty notes, like, or whatever. But then
Right.
we end up becoming student teachers, is a weird way to put it. So it's like we're
Pretty
learning and
much.
having fun. I mean, we're very different, but
Yes.
it's like learning and absorbing and doing it. And then it doesn't click into a Sagittarian authority thing necessarily. Those yours is ninth house. It feels like we're just kind of shedding the knowledge we do have, dropping knowledge, as they put it, as opposed to
Yeah.
like coercing people. So,
Yeah.
when did you start shifting more into like not authority is a strong word, but it's like when did you find confidence in yourself enough to start like leading people down these paths for like money
Well,
and
it
stuff?
just yeah, it just happened. It wasn't a conscious thought. I
Right.
was just helping people. I had my own little group page, and just helping people. Then I was like, you know what? Why not just make it a page and just try and see what happens? And then people just started jumping on like crazy. I'm like, going, what's going on? Like everybody's jumping on my page. I don't even know what I'm doing, but it just kind of happened like that
I was in
really
the right
fast.
place,
I don't
kind
know
of
what
thing.
happened, but I started doing the art. I'm also an artist, so I create all my images. I mean, not all of them, but
Many.
many of them.
I
Yeah.
gotta geek out on that.
And
Oh, keep talking. I'm gonna
yeah,
look though. I was like, hold on.
yeah.
I should have done my
I
homework.
mean,
Damn it.
all that Cancer in the 12th house, that's going to be artistic, for sure. So, and then my Neptune is in the 5th house, Scorpio. So that's going to be very artistic. And I just started creating my own images. And while I was creating them, I was channeling. I was channeling. It's like, why do I feel so good when I create these images? So it was another way.
Raphael channel. So I kind of want to pick on this for a second because I think
Yeah,
he'll have to explain his own method. So as an artistic type, I
yeah,
tend to think of being in the zone as channel. It's like what's not channeling in a sense, but it feels like there's maybe a spectrum of like
yeah,
submitting to the flow versus I don't know, conscious entities maybe dictating or something like that. That's a little more specific. Um when you say you were channeling, like I want to kind of explore that a little. What did you think that was? Was that like tapping into your creative flow, which is
yeah.
maybe a way to
That's
put
what
it?
I'm
Or
saying.
okay, yeah.
Tapping into my creative flow because, say, for instance, you're having a bad day,
Hmm.
everyone has them. Then I start creating images, and all of a sudden I feel great. Like everything's gone. I feel good, in fact. And then I feel very, like, much in my
Centered.
intuition. Yeah, my intuition is also turned on really strong. So
Mm.
that's what I was doing when I create the images. I'm creating in that flow. And I think that's what more than likely that's why it attracted so many people. They feel it, you know. But it's totally a flow because sometimes I'll be creating and I don't even know what I'm going to create and then just boom, it pops up. So that's what I mean is it's a flow. Everything has to be a flow. The minute I feel that you start using your mind, you kind of get off the flow, if that makes sense.
1,000%. It's tricky because well, it's like
It is.
hydroelectricity, where it's like, look, we can utilize this. Like if we use our heads, we can kind of latch on and piggyback. Like
Right.
yes, the river's awesome, but we could actually have a dam that, like Hoover Dam or whatever. So it's like let's, and and that changes the whole process. It's weird. We
It
could
does.
justify it, but I don't know if that's ultimately okay. It feels like we're allowed. Allowed is a strange word. We're able to freely choose to participate in ways that. Interject ego self into the flow, and I think
Yeah.
in some weird way, I mean, how would I put it, like the muse speaks to people varying in varying ways, but it's like there's a difference between like raw expressionism and like and schools of thinking and taking, it's
Yeah.
like Picasso, for example, weird example, but it's like really good artist for a while, and then he got into this, because the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times or whatever, the philosophies of the era were getting into like it was getting into the ideas of postmodernism. It wasn't really there. So when he gets to cubism, it's like here's the same object looking at from multiple perspectives. So it's like uh, to me that would be like intentionally guiding the impulse as opposed to
Yeah.
just like going "Nyeh," and like being like whatever, this like lighthouse of pure gnosis flow or whatever.
Yeah.
People's charts dictate this. I'm rambling, but typically what I do. So how would you suggest to people how not to get in the way of the flow? Like
Yeah,
what are
that's
things you do consciously to not
and
do
I
that?
and I do see that a lot. And what I normally would say to somebody is, well, number one, go take a walk, go outside in nature,
Right.
you know, do something different that what you're doing because your mind can play tricks on you like big time, right? Pay attention to what you're eating. A lot of that comes from eating too. If your body's really toxic, you're gonna feel like not so flowy. You're gonna feel aggravated, irritated. So I take all of that into account. You got to drink more water. You got to do all the good things that you need. Um, Detach from people if you need to. Sometimes you get too overwhelmed. Maybe it's not even you. It's their energy that you're picking up on. There's so many things you can do, but that's mainly how you get in the flow. You just got to be really focused on your energy.
It's
Everything
funny
is
because
energy, right?
presumably at some level, yes, I can't argue against that. That's a very compelling model that seems to answer a lot.
Yeah.
Um, it was funny because I was right before we sat down. I was like, the thought crossed my mind because I was trying to relax. I've been in my head a lot and talked to people about astrology, and it gets me like manic almost, where it's like, oh yes,
Yeah.
this is getting me high.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, all right, look, like you got to recenter, and like,
Exactly.
how do you become a hose for the power of the water going through you without like losing the stability?
Yeah.
And it was funny because I had this weird thought where it's like philosophy, because I like thinking, obviously. I was like, philosophy is what happens in Northern Europe when not just Northern Europe, but it's like when people have too much indoor cat time and they just sit there with
Yeah.
their thoughts, it's like your brain can kind of play with itself, and that's
It's
beautiful.
terrible.
And well, yeah, I think
To
it's
me,
beautiful
it's
and you
like
think it's terrible.
to me, it's like it's beautiful to see a lot of intellectuality and a lot of, smart things, but I think like, no, don't think too much.
Yeah, it
Because
becomes the
when you're in the
master.
flow, you know which way to turn. You know what you need to do. But when you're
Mm.
so bogged down with your thoughts, you're confusing yourself. You
I need to
can't do
hear this.
anything.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's paralyzing because it's almost like
Yeah.
a bind. I've had this kind of vision before, back in high school, during a nervous breakdown, ironically,
Yeah.
where it was like black, white, black, black, and it was just like, and I was like, oh, everything's just a paradox infinitely, fractally. So I don't know how,
You can
if
go
I
in your
say
thoughts.
X, yeah, it's like, okay, yin, no, actually yang, but yin and yang have equal opposites in them, and it's just like, holy shit, it's nice to get to the cosmic giggle place where you can just kind of like belly chuckle and say, what a trip, I'm privileged to be here, I don't know, but I have to act, it's like, we'll see. um
Yeah.
but it gets hard because it only gets hard. How would I put it? We want to manipulate reality, it seems, for beneficence to ourselves. Like, it's instead of just
Yeah.
going, well, I'm going to hope for rain. It's like, maybe if I make an aqueduct, we can have like regular food on the table.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Exactly.
it seems the mind has a place in manipulation of time space reality. On the last episode, we pulled the card instead of the high priestess, which is kind of what you're getting at. High priestess energy is like, just submit to it, like open up, it
Yeah.
will work itself out. And we don't tend to believe that. The magician card tends to be like, my will be done. All right, I see the
Yeah.
elements on the table. I want an apple pie. That means I'm gonna have to manhandle this crust and smash all this stuff. So like, it works, but it's like a very different archetype of motivation, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um I'm rambling, sorry.
I love
So,
it though. I love it.
well,
We need that
shocker,
1:45 PST to
we
start
made
so we
it.
can get.
So,
Did we
oh, is it
make it?
not there? No, I don't know.
It's
It's like,
yeah,
what?
we're in the
We're in the
Aquarius
Aquarius
energy now.
zone.
The
Doo,
moon
doo,
jumped in
doo,
there.
doo, 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 doo.
So
Probably when you
we're
said that, it
on.
was 4242. Sorry, I see all these stupid numbers.
I know, me too.
Raphael, I'm curious if you wanted to say anything. You don't have to, clearly, about channeling, and how maybe you experience it. Uh, what is your approach? Do you feel like you're just submitting and letting things happen, or do you feel like you're trying to guide the river a little, or how does that feel for you?
Well, ideally, the one thing to do actively is to actively get out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, because I, I would assume I understand you correctly when you say, to think less or not get the mind in between. However, the mind at the same time is 100% necessary to be able to even
Oh, yeah.
translate this. So it's more
Yeah.
like the mind ideally then is not about censoring, or, I mean, steering it maybe a tiny bit depending on the context. But for me, it's
Yeah.
mainly about, it's actually quite a few times I actually then see images, and then it's actually about translating the image, or just like you receive a zip file, like a compressed archive, and it's about
Yeah.
extracting it, and then maybe automatically having to maybe filter it or something. But usually, or the best channeling usually, I would say, occurs when the mind is focused on this translation task and not on, is it correct, is it nice to say, or whatever like
Like, the
that. So,
criticality is
Yeah.
turned off, but that
yeah,
doesn't mean the processing is off
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Because yeah, I mean, I've seen videos. Maybe it's been a while since you've done it, but Raphael, explain what you do? Because it's like, I would say when I'm talking, I'm channeling, but it's like, that's facetious, right? I'm not like, oh, here comes something from Alpha Centauri, or it's not quite like that. It's
Of
like
course,
more
we're
Yeah,
just like
channeling.
bleh, bleh,
Yeah,
bleh.
the only. Oh, you mean in terms of tonality, or what do you mean?
I mean, how would I put it? When people start talking about channeling, the first thing with my Judeo-Christian thing is like, what is the voice you're hearing, and how are like,
Is the
possession
voice
kind of
of
comes to
God?
mind. Yeah, it's like, well, who knows? But like, I'm like, how does one discern what's going on? Um, just submitting to forces doesn't seem like the most discerning approach. So I'm always like, all right, how are you testing the spirit? Or does that make sense? I'm like, what's going on?
Well, the first
I mean, I
question
can
would
sit here and
be,
be like, oh my gosh, I should go eat human flesh, which I'm a vegan, I don't do. But it's like, what am I channeling if I think that? Is that my thought? Like, what am I picking up on? It's like, it's tricky.
yeah,
well,
So
yeah.
just
It
like
is.
Zoe said, depending on your, diet, overall state, also mental refinement, understood properly, soul or heart-based understanding, which quote unquote forces, if you even want to externalize them, which I don't do, because ultimately everything is fractally the same thing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
even if we play that there is individuation and these separations, which of these forces, quote unquote, or voices, if we even call them like that, would actually be inclined to connect with you? This all depends, let's say, on your overall conscious and unconscious energy states. And if that's somewhat aligned, then nothing would really try to contact or come through you, or something that would be in any way, shape, or form harmful, dangerous, or anything else. And even here, I mean, I don't want to say that this doesn't exist, but it's just usually, again, as above, so below, like a reflection or an amplification of the pattern you already have on
today,
this level. Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's just stepping it up. And maybe the difference just is, and I also noticed this because now I haven't been channeling for a few months, is this level of understanding is always available. The only difference is when you consciously put yourself in that state through whatever induction technique or just high awareness, then it's simply easier to stay on that level, or it's much clearer. When otherwise in daily life you would be like, okay, I know that, I know this is the right way to go, but then maybe you catch yourself off guard because you're in the flow of, quote unquote stressful day or many strange
Yeah.
things happening. And in a channeling, it's just different, that you deliberately take the moment and be like, okay, I'm only locked on this level. And then you're really locked into this level. And the other things which would otherwise upset or confuse you, they're not even a question, because you're only, let's say not only, but you're like really tuning strongly into that level. And it's not just something that's concurrent with the everyday consciousness. Whereas, of
Yeah.
course, ideally, ultimately, maybe mostly, one would say that the highest insight and relaxation and love is something that you naturally always bring with you every day in any state, but that's
Yeah.
then the approximation game, let's say.
Word. I don't know how familiar you are with the human design system.
Little bit.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, because
Little
that
bit.
comes to mind. My friend is obsessed, not obsessed. She's way into it.
Like a
She's like,
lot
she
of
used to be
people
into
are. Yeah.
astrology, and then she's like, this is the thing. This is like 2.0. Let's go this way.
Yeah.
And it's it makes an Aquarian minded person. I mean, it's like, this is the Tesla schematic of stuff. If it's true, maybe it helps. But his whole or who is this guy? He basically, and I'll summarize this. I'll send you a link to this video. It's like an hour and a half. It's fascinating. It's like
Sure.
telling a story of basically what it doesn't sound like a chill situation. That's why I'm like, what's going on? The heck is going on? So basically, he was out. He's a Canadian guy. I think he had a normal life, and he got kind of called into this. I think I'm gonna botch this a little, but roughly speaking, he got rid of a lot. Like, he disconnected from his reality, took a little bit of money, went to fucking Ibiza, Spain, I think, and basically lived in a tree and was like this
Wow.
crazy dude, like
Wow.
very weird vibes, right? And he's
Yeah.
an Aries, I think. So he was just doing this weird shit, and then basically, I mean, I'm summing up a whole lot. He was in this like little ghetto house, like a
Yeah.
an old, not even a house, like a ruin essentially.
Yeah.
Living in a ruin, and he started having contact because he was doing Blavatsky stuff and
Oh wow.
astrology stuff, and it seemed like a synthesis of things. But basically, he was being guided, like by a presence, I guess you could say, and weird psychedelic Twilight Zone things will happen. I'll send you this video. You can
That's a
take. I would
trip.
love your opinion. No understatement. Like, people start vomiting,
Yeah.
strangers start coming up, and
Whew.
like he's taking their chakras and all sorts of weird, like darker and
Yeah,
more
that's a little.
possessed sounding.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
That's
like,
what
I
I
don't know.
feel when you say that. I
All right.
feel it's a
Okay. Well, so
little
this is.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Little
want you. I'll
sketchy.
send you the video. We can't do it now, obviously, and watch an hour and a half video.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'll send you this, and if you watch a little or any, I would love your 2 cents, because
Sure.
my discernment this is the kind of, spidey senses started tingling when it's like, it's tricky because on the one hand we could presuppose all is okay in the final summational, analysis or
Yeah.
something. It's like it's all one happening, but some paths are a little weird and twisted that get there, and that's fine, I guess, in some like hands off
Yeah.
laissez-faire new age spiritual all is good thing. But it gets tricky because it's like, by your fruit you'll be known kind of thing. So it's like, all right, I mean, I don't know if people like vomiting profusely and
Yeah.
people are going to mental hospitals and just weird shit's happening. It feels like, but I don't want to write that off as something that's not. I mean, it's real, but is it true? See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like
Yeah.
something's happening. What's
Yeah.
happening? I didn't know if you'd ever heard that story. I'll pass it on to
No.
you later. And it's like, this is like an X-Files ghost story, and it's just like, this
Yeah.
guy is
That's
been
sketchy.
touched. But my friend was like, "Oh, she's got a map for it." I mean, apparently he's got this channeled kind of thing, and it's like, oh, he got in contact with a Bardo state thing that was because of the particles of the solar winds at this time because of the astrology. Because it's like I Ching astrology. It's like a weird Trojan horse.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, is models break through? I mean, that's how it works. At some point, people didn't have Greek or Mesopotamian or whatever models of these kind of archetypes. So it seems there's
Mhm.
punctuation events of stating the thing that always existed. It just recapitulates itself. Like the song is always the same, it seems, and yet the record
Yeah.
is, twirling as opposed to looping. It's
Yeah.
like a screw. We're changing stance on it. Anyway, I'm rambling. Good God, but
We love it. We
I
love
just
the
didn't. I just
rambling.
didn't know if you had heard about that or if you had an impression because you guys are both like channeling's cool. You're more like I play with creative flow. Raphael seems to be talking about
I
no
feel
mind
like,
stance a little.
you know,
But that was not that with that guy. He was like, I have a being here telling me what to
there's
do, and it's yeah,
yeah,
something's
I never
hardcore
wanna
here.
get involved with that stuff because that
Word.
that feels a little dark. I've had energies come to me that scared me, like, you could feel it. "Somebody's in this room, I could feel it, and he's mad at me." This is a long time ago, so it's not
Mm.
happening now, but I
You
did
sage
have.
plenty now, kids.
Oh
She's
gosh.
all clean and
Yeah, I
squeaky
kept
clean now.
things just kept happening. I just remember this guy came up, and right after he came up, this spirit came right after and
Wow.
scanned me. I couldn't tell anyone. I could not tell, not a soul, but I feel a scanning, like in Star Trek when they scan you. I was like,
Yes.
zzz, zzz, I
Your
just played it
barcode was
off.
being
I'm like,
read.
oh, it was totally what I felt. I said, somebody's
Yeah.
here and they're reading me and whatever, but
Nice
I'm like,
attitude. Later,
yeah,
dude.
whatever. I'm gonna play it off. Hopefully they don't know that I know, but I'm not
Trick
gonna
or
tell
treat.
anyone. But that's
Uh,
the world I live in. It's like, why? Why do I
So
see these?
Raphael, what are you? Because I did DMT and I got scanned by a Egyptian deity on DMT. So
You
I've told that
did?
to some people. Yeah, I don't need to go into the story now. Raphael's laughing because it's like I've told this story probably 40 times.
Well, I
But
never heard anyone else get scanned, so that's
oh,
interesting.
I know, and it's like the soul essence. It's like I've been read. I've been read.
Yeah, I was
And
red.
what the fuck?
I felt so
It,
abused.
well, it's intrusive, but it's also like humbling because it's like I can't do that back. Like it felt like it just like oh okay, oh shit.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not a fun feeling, but now I understand
It
why maybe
wasn't.
people feel like alien abductions scan you or something like that.
Yeah, it was
Anyway,
something for
I'm
sure.
all over the place, but Raphael, what are your thoughts? Because you've popped up, and I'm sure you have some. Don't pretend like you don't. What do you think of these scanning entities? What would you make of that?
Well, I just wanted actually to say, because you mentioned about this guy, and I've seen only one
I'll send you the
interesting
video.
video with some kind of an imam, let's say supposedly somewhere in the desert with a woman. And it even says like, yeah, woman is channeling the devil or something, and he's like exorcising her or something like this. So I'm definitely, there are these kind of states which seem, scary and strange and so on. Either for me, I'm I would say not willfully, not luckily, gleefully or something ignorant of many of these things maybe, or in a way I'm not, and maybe
Yeah,
that's why they're not even looking to approach me, because there's even certain schools of thought which even say that all the legion of demons, they're actually super awesome and great because they protect quote unquote protect us from the real other layers or something. So it's all a matter of perspective. And for me, the main thing which I think often causes the trouble is when there is too strong of a externalization, let's say, of energies. So of course, if I claim that there is nothing, whatever we would claim to be a shadow or something within me, well, then it has to be without me. then it has to manifest without me because everything is connected. But if I
Yeah.
see myself large enough to be able to contain that, then those things don't necessarily need to come out in any, potentially erratic way. So that's, I think, often the issue when people are they're basically splitting off aspects of themselves, and then they come as an external force, and then maybe they can overwhelm them. But if one is always like, I don't know, relaxing into the infinity of all the beingness, yeah, then it seems that there is less of an issue with those things. But I haven't had too much experience of that. But of course, any type of, one could say, mental disorder and so on, ultimately, or when there's a real thing happening, is like imbalance of energies and usually too much separation within oneself. That's just what I wanted to say. Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
So the more
Uh,
we separate from an identity that's within us, the more you think it projects out as these things, and then we're interacting with the outer manifestation of our inner self abstractly or
Yes,
something.
and also then this is when it could in any way, overwhelm you or be like, oh, it's forcing me to do something which is bad, or I'm eating too much
You ever
today,
had
or
a night
whatever,
terror, man? It's not fun.
Yeah,
It's like,
sure, but even here
what
I
part
would
of me is
ask,
that?
yeah, but even here, oftentimes this happens to children, and also here
yeah.
would ask what kind of diet are they on, what kind of other things were put into their body,
Krispy
and so on,
Kreme.
what kind of crazy emotional stuff is going on in the world. And so also this is not happening in a vacuum, I would say, because I wondered about this a lot. And there's even, I mean, I think even the most basic cough syrup has codeine in it or something, and
Yeah.
that's a trip down a particular lane. So I'm just saying these things are not in a vacuum. So yeah.
Yeah. I actually commanded after that scanning.
Mm.
I commanded. I don't see anything. Nothing's there. It's done. You're not allowed in my energy field. And it completely went away. Because out of sight, out of mind, right? So you can
Well,
control. Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind is like the Balrog with Gandalf. He's like, "You shall not pass." It's like, you're not going to get your way on this one, Gandalf. I'm sorry.
Yep.
There's a
Yep.
real there's a real thing you're going to contend with outside of saying you don't exist. So, but maybe mind over matter. I mean, this is where like true conviction versus just
Yeah.
saying the fucking spell,
I was
matters.
just
I
like,
guess.
I can't have these things come in my way. No
No,
way.
no
Because
buenos.
I'll get too freaked out. I'm too sensitive. I
Yeah.
could feel too much. So I just done. You're not allowed. Even if they exist, done. You're not allowed in my energy field. And I haven't experienced that since.
Hmm.
I could generally feel when someone's trying to read my mind. My antenna is so strong, it's like I could feel someone trying to pick my mind and I push them out. So I control like my whole self, but I could read people's minds. I think many people keep their minds open, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's easy to dig in when you keep your mind open for
I
other
had a
energies to.
I want to get into mind reading because I've had a trip on acid. Back when I was in Colorado. It's a funny story actually. I hadn't tripped on acid for like 10 years or something. And there's this
Yeah.
Pisces girl, my eighth house. There's this Pisces girl I was having a fling with for a few weeks. And she
Yeah.
was into like, art and stuff. She's like, let's watch The Labyrinth, like with Bowie. I was like, I've never seen this, or Dark Crystal, the shit like that. And she's like, you want to do some acid? Or I knew she had it, so I was like, let me buy some for this concert, this jam band called the Disco Biscuits, whom I'm actually going to go see next month here in Mobile. In any event, the disco biscuit is a slang for term for ecstasy, so it's like dance rock. It's crazy. Anyway, I eat a tab and I'm on rollerblades, and I'm like, I got to go to this concert later. This is going to be a quick little story, but it gets to mind reading. I eat it and I'm rollerblading around and I'm starting to come up, and I mean, it's been a while since I've tripped, and I'm like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
great. But then my rollerblades don't have brakes on it, and I went to Denver's Mile
That's
High Stadium, which is on a
yeah.
huge, basically
Oh
ski
God.
incline without brakes, and I was going like 40 miles an hour, and I ate shit, and everyone's like, are you okay? And I'm like tripping, and I'm like, I'm fine, bleeding out, basically. Not
Oh
really
my
bleeding out, but
gosh.
got all messed up. Anyway, I end up it's a Sunday, it's, super, not Super Bowl, but fucking football Sunday. The Bronco Stadium's full of 75,000 people, and I'm spun kind of with my astrological attributes, which you could see.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
start I go into this whatever. I go into the city, get my ticket. I'm doing this whole like a little adventure. I end up back at Mile High Stadium, ironically, Mile High, very much for me. Um, and there was I was being bombarded by the thoughts of other people. It was so bizarre. Like I was like, I think I can
Yep.
tune into your thoughts. And then there's like
Yep.
this mentally challenged dude that sat next to me, and I was like not being a bodhisattva totally, but I was like, oh my god, I wish the best for you, man. It's got to be hard. Blah blah. The point is, it was weird because I wouldn't have thought you could hear thoughts or tune in, pick up. Like to me, that would have been like some abstract thing, but on a psychedelic, for some reason, in that instance, I was like well aware of the cacophony of noise that is mental, like the noosphere, like the
It's
mental
a trip.
thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done telling my little shtick, but
I mean,
what's your
many,
story with that?
many, many years ago, I did acid too. I tried it, and phew, if we open up my mind, I'm gonna see way too much. It's what you saw is my world, really.
Right. You
You
don't
know
need
what
the
I mean?
drugs.
Like, yeah, I don't need it. It's
Yeah.
so intense. Like for instance, I one time I walked past my mom and I
Mm.
just zoom started feeling all this energy and my ears started ringing and I was like, "Hey mom, I think your blood pressure's too high." And she looked and it was so high. My body read everything. Like it just was weird, you
Mm.
know? That is without drugs. That's
Yeah.
just Zoe,
Well, just think what happened if you were dripping IV dripping DMT. You would be a high priestess
Oh,
card forever. No, I'm kidding.
I'd be crazy. I mean, I would
It,
see too much. Yeah, I don't want to see that much. I
that's why
already
I'm
see
like,
enough.
I mean, I used to have a lot of fun with psychedelics, but it seems
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's limits, right? Alan Watts was like a Zen Buddhist guy. He was like, once you get the message, hang up the phone, kind of thing. He was a Capricorn, so I can see him being like a little dour about flucking around like that.
Yeah, yeah.
He stayed
Totally.
smoking cigars and drinking booze and stuff, but it's funny because it really lifts veils and
It
because I'm a
does.
proponent personally for everybody to try psychedelics, just see how the
Yeah.
other half of the coin feels because it really does expand
Just
your
open up your mind a little.
perspective. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then clearly you're not like gung ho about like eating tabs every weekend or something like that.
Oh,
So
no, no, nothing
yeah,
like that.
uh,
Because I'll see too much and I don't want to see too much. I see so many things already, you know? Like
word.
example,
Yeah.
one time a girl was drinking beer at a party and
Mm,
right when she drank the beer, I saw the aura go down her stomach. And then right when it went to her stomach, it started swirling like fire. And I was like, holy shit, I'm like seeing everything that's going on in her body. What the hell? You could just see a lot. So if I did psychedelics, I'd be like, all right, everyone line up. I'll tell you what's coming your way. It's just a lot.
Yeah,
So
fear is the mind killer. It's weird because I mean, on the one,
it
but what is
is.
responsibility? So it's like you don't want to just eat the fruit because you can. Um, I mean, there's consequences, right? So I think that
Yeah,
yeah, I'm very pro psychedelic, but people should do their research and know themselves. At the same time, it's like we can
definitely.
build up all this fear in our head where it's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then you do. Like I used to have to listen to Tame Impala's "Let It Happen" before I tripped every time because I was like, I gotta let this happen. Like this is happening. Like even when the lyrics is like, "Tell my mother I'm sorry." Like if I'm going crazy, I'm like, "Mom," it's like, "I love you all. I've got to go do this." I've had some of the best experiences of my life. Like listening to the Beatles or something. I'm
Yeah,
like, I see this now differently. Um,
yeah.
it's tricky because maybe
Opens
that
your
season's
mind up.
over. Yeah, I haven't tripped in a while, but I might again. But it's almost to get a baseline of like, is this where I'm at?
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about? I mean, we're all over the
So
place. I'm like, I've lost my trains of thought. We were kind of
the
at
moon the
astrology.
moon did enter Aquarius already. So we're in the
Word.
Aquarius moon. I was going to mention, how we were talking about the focus on the mind.
Mm,
I also have that too because I have Pluto in the third house
mhm,
with Pallas, and Uranus is right in the third house. It's all in the third house of just crazy energy, right? With the mind. So my mind can literally dig in really deep to a person or anything, picking up on any kind of information. So sometimes I don't even feel like it's intuitive. It's just like pure, just
observational awareness.
ops. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like the antenna is just very strong. So what happens is information will come and I could feel it. And then something from, let's say, something about your past we were talking about a while ago,
Mhm.
it'll just pop back up about your past. And then I put it together and then it tells me a little bit about your future. I don't know if that's intuitive, but that's definitely awareness, I guess. So the mind is very strong on me as well. I have no choice.
It's funny what we're strapped to. We're embarked.
Yeah,
I heard that
yeah,
at some point some Christian philosopher said that, and it's like I say it all the time. It's like we're fucking embarked. It is what it is. I'm on the ride.
yeah,
Like, what am I
yeah,
gonna do? Jump off the
yeah,
ride?
exactly.
Um, so what other modalities? I mean, are you strictly into astrology? Or are you playing with other kind of maps and modalities, or how do you process magic with a K? Or how are you doing that?
Well, it's like I said, it's a lot of my artistic abilities. I do focus on my art because that's all about the flow for me. It's also 100%, it's just those two. It's just
Mm,
art, astrology. That's just it. And I just keep putting them together and it creates information for me. So that's how I do it, you know? If I'm not doing the art, then the astrology is not going to kick in the same way either, if that makes
mm.
sense.
Yeah, it's like a double barrel shotgun. They both go
Yeah,
off at the same time, kind of thing, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Well, I mean, I'm kind of I don't know if it's the moon in Aquarius now or what, the void. I'm like, "I'm getting tired. I wish I had a coffee or a tea or something, but I didn't."
Well, we're getting close. We're getting close to the balsamic moon, right? So we're getting close before it's a new moon. It's going to make you tired before that burst of energy comes in.
I feel guilty because, I mean, I'm having astrologers like you on, it's like I barely pay attention to the astrology anymore. Like, I if you were to be like I know Venus just entered Gemini because it's loud and proud on the internet, so I've seen people talk about this. I'm just not in tune, and I feel like I mean,
That's
how would I
okay.
put it? It is okay, but I'm kind of like, how do you is it wrong to think the map is not the territory, right? So it's like these are do you know what I mean by that? So it's like when we're like, okay, I'm this way because of this, I'm this way because of this, there's like explanatory power in these things, but then it can
Yeah.
become obsessive is too strong a word, but like
Oh,
single-minded about it, where it's like
yeah.
maybe I'm not just my chart. Like my ex-fiance was,
Yeah.
being like, this is your ego, and maybe you're supposed to like I'm a Gemini, but it's like
Yeah.
I've mastered that energy now. It's about like balancing it out with the other stuff and
It
rising
is.
above.
That is right. That's everything. It's not just the astrology. You got to balance the whole thing. I mean, you got to pay attention to your body. I'm serious about that one. Paying attention to even the way you think is very important. You could be more fear-based. I mean, there's so many assets to it, you aspects to it. So you just have to balance, and that's what we're going into with the North Node in Aries. We're going to have to balance ourselves because the South Node will be in Libra. So it's all about balance, mind, body, spirit.
What are some methods that you use to do proper self talk without being too mental about it? Like, I mean, you don't want to just, I mean, I guess that's the point of mantras
Right.
and stuff. Like, you just zone
Yeah.
out with it and it's like, okay, I'm there on that frequency. But yeah, what is your self talk method? Raphael, I'm kind of curious. How do you speak to yourself?
I'm
I find that the
always
hardest. I just bitch at myself and I'm like, I figure you're,
Well,
the
you know what's
paradoxical thing.
interesting is now that Pluto went into Aquarius, we're going to be able to see how we use our minds, how
Mm.
we connect with our minds. So it's all about how you communicate with yourself. So for me, I will notice certain things that I need to fix. Like maybe I should think this way, more positive. I'm doing a lot of Anthony Robbins right now, trying to
You mean
think
Tony
more.
Robbins?
Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Tony
Yeah. Yeah.
Robbins. Yeah,
Okay. Well,
I'm all
Anthony is like
into.
his like Italian birth name or whatever
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever he
I'm
is.
all
Anthony
into
Robbins.
whatever makes you better.
Hmm.
I'm all about let's just get
I've
better.
wondered if he's Nephilim, straight up. I'm like, he's a huge fucking dude. Like, what is
Yeah,
genetically going on here? He seems
yeah,
like gargantuan, like a
yeah,
disease of gargantua or whatever.
yeah, he's
Cool
amazing.
guy.
But my point is I want to talk positive. So I do listen to a lot of videos on that, like how you should think and think positive because we there's a lot of fear that we've been going through. A lot of us have been with Pluto and Capricorn. It's been intense, you
Yeah,
know?
the world is ending vibes.
Yeah. And
And yeah, it's shifting for sure.
it's
Uh,
shifting and a lot of people are scared because they don't know what to think about this new energy. I'm actually excited about it. It's so cool
what are you
to me.
most excited about?
Well, it's like a fresh start. Everything is fresh. You can start looking at how you think. You can manifest faster. Things will happen at a rapid pace. With
Mm.
Aquarius, it's like electricity. So it's going to be a lot quicker. So your thoughts are so important right now. If you're going to be negative, you're going to manifest it really quick. If you're positive, you're going to manifest that. So the mind is really a big deal with Pluto and Aquarius, I feel. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like an awakening, right? Aquarius is like the awakener.
The epiphany. I
Yeah,
because Uranus rules Aquarius. I guess it's Saturn
right,
too because of ancient
right.
whatever astrology. But I kind of go modern more than ancient typically. So it's like Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, right? So like Mercury is like the kid, Mercury's flying fleet-footed with his little wings or whatever feet, Hermes thing. And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
Here's some answers or whatever. Uranus, I've always been like, it's when you open up the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones and their faces melt. It's like this shit is radioactive information, or like Eureka with Archimedes. He's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
running through the streets naked with the epiphany. It's like it's not just like a
Well,
I'll put that on a
that's what
sticky
it
note.
is. People
Yeah,
are gonna
exactly.
be waking up very quickly with this
Yeah,
energy, but also we get to see how we use our minds. If we're overthinking or, change the way that we think, this is brilliant. I feel like the universe has a plan that's so beautiful in front of us, but before it gets there, we're going through a change, which is uncomfortable, right?
a birthing, dare I
Yeah,
say?
bir that's right. So a birthing, it's either a birthing or some people are going to look at like a death, right? So it
Yeah,
depends on how you're going to use your thoughts. But I think it's just amazing. And then Aquarius rules, or it's ruled by Uranus, right? So your Uranus placement gets awakened. I love that. So wherever you have Uranus is going to get like energy.
hard.
It's exciting.
It's funny because yesterday I have a family friend that's a therapist, and she's doing something. I think it's what is it called? Somatic healing kind of stuff, more or less.
Yeah.
So we're like breathing, and it's funny because I'm doing some of these things on my own, and it helps, like whatever, avoid space kind of thing, and letting go, like self hypnotism, basically is what it is. So I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I can hypnotize myself, and if we commit ourselves, if you get your monkey mind shutting up a little, you
Yeah.
can really enter certain spaces. And yesterday or the day before, I forget, I was at this lady's house and doing it, and it was funny because something specifically happened where I couldn't even tell you like what was going on. I think it was a combination of a few things, but it was like all the tension in my solar plexus in my stomach, which is where I hold a lot of tension, I feel,
Yeah.
was being released. And it's like our body actually wants to support us, but we fight it. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on mind body and anything you want to say to that
Oh,
effect?
well, I'm also into yoga.
Okay.
And when I do yin yoga, especially, I realize that gosh, our bodies are so much affecting the way we think. It's
Did I
totally
freeze?
connected. Yeah, did I freeze? Did I freeze?
No, only Jim froze, I think.
Oh,
Perhaps you're
okay.
gonna
So
you can go on.
yeah, I was just saying that yin yoga is another modality I use to loosen up my mind because the body, if it's all tightened up, we're gonna be thinking too much. And I don't want to think
Guilty
so
as
much.
charged.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a goddamn
Also,
slinky of death.
I mean, we spoke about it a bit, but I just saw on your page also that you're obviously into detoxification, and you mentioned it initially as well. But yeah, this is I think something that's I always mention it is oftentimes so overlooked because just like our higher selves, however you want to
Yeah.
phrase that, for some it's Jesus, angels, God, an angel, higher self, whatever, and our body, which would be maybe from the mind's perspective seen as the lower self, but generally both are smarter, I want to say,
That's
than the
so true,
mind,
right?
or they should, or both actually should be the ones, giving insights and even orders what to process to the mind. But too often
Right.
the mind thinks, oh, I have to control my higher self and I have to control my body. But both actually have so much energy and are such order generating forces that if the mind would just, basically follow their lead, it would be a
Yeah.
lot easier. But yeah,
Yeah. But
we're
it's
taught
usually
differently.
reversed.
Yes.
No, it's so true. The body has so much effect on us, you know? So we want to keep those channels clear and clean so that we can even, have intuition or
Exactly, yeah. And what would you
exactly.
say in your own journey in terms of maybe biological things? Would you say you simply, when you realized this, you changed your diet, and maybe this also then had effects actually on the, let's say, how clear you could be of a channel, or how clear the energies would be, or even maybe what type of energies would approach you, as we spoke about
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah. Well, it actually was reversed where I just started juicing because I heard it was fun and good. But when I actually started juicing, I started to notice like, oh, my body is so different. Everything is clearing out. and I can feel things and taste things differently. Everything gets awakened, you know? It's like your taste buds change. So it started off reversed for me where I just wanted to try it and it woke a lot of things up, you know? But it has everything to do with your body and the toxins that's in there. And you don't want to get too crazy with that either. You just want to be gentle and do a nice cleanse and, be nice to yourself. Not everything doesn't have to be so hardcore, which I am more of a hardcore person learning how to
I feel you.
loosen up in that area.
I actually just I have a bicep like bulge, and I got I guess a bicep tendonitis. It seems the other day, like usually I do like sets of things throughout the day. I'm like, all right, 30 of these, 20 of these, 30 of these, and then I'll do like 4 sets of them throughout the day. And then the other like a week ago, I was like, I missed it all. I'll just do it all now. So it's like 260 of these things, and
All
it's
at
like,
once.
yeah, and I didn't feel it. And now I've got like a pea-sized bulge, and I'm like, I don't think I need surgery, but what the fuck's going on? So yeah, I'm like,
Overdid it.
understatement.
Overdid it.
Take it's
Yeah.
all or nothing sometimes with the
Yeah.
that can be the extreme
Yeah.
Saturn on South
I
Node
have that
stuff.
too.
Um,
Seriously.
well, I mean,
But
you get to flow. I'll let you be the high priestess here. Where do you want to take this conversation? We've touched on a lot of things, kind of a little. Is there anything about your story that you feel compelled to talk about? That we haven't broached. That I mean, I wasn't even thinking about you being an artist, and you are
yeah. Yeah.
profoundly resonant with that. So, is there anything about the creative process or art you want to talk about? I'm an art history dropout. We can geek out about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. No, I don't really want to talk about art, but let's talk about Pluto and Aquarius.
Okay, the conscious yours.
Yeah,
What I
that's
mean,
that's
this is a
like
big
so
deal. It's a huge
exciting.
cycle, right? So if people don't know, Pluto is at the moment the most outermost planet we have in our model of astrology. So Sun would be personal, Moon. It's like 1 day Sun, 2 days Moon, 80 or 90 days or something like that. 88 days for Mercury, and it keeps going. Jupiter, I
Yeah.
think, is 12 years. Well, by the time you get to like Pluto, it's like 250, 300 years. I'm not. Don't
Yeah,
quote me
so
on this, but go ahead.
it's huge when it moves the sign, you know what I mean? It's like that's a big deal. We're going to be affected for the next 20 years with the new digital age coming up really fast. I mean, and it's like a complete change in the way that we interact in society. It's just going to be, to me, so amazing.
Well,
But
already, have you noticed that? I mean, I haven't tapped
oh,
too deeply into this, but the whole BRICS thing with Brazil and Russia and Iran and China kind of being like very Aquarius, so like Pluto and
yeah,
Aquarius, transformation through a new team, and they're like, we're gonna be an economic factor, and maybe the dollar won't be the standard for oil now, which might fuck us all over here more, but
yeah.
like the game is changing clearly. So we don't have to focus on negative economic stuffs, but it
Oh,
seems like
no,
stuff like
no.
crypto, stuff like
It's all
people
changing.
people having less people wanting, I don't even know, not AI government, but it seems like human government is like this weird interface where we're like, why is an 80-year-old white man representing us who can't speak clearly or whatever people are thinking. I hear
Yeah,
Newsom's going to run for president now. I'm like, oh my god, here we go.
there we
I'm
go.
not in favor of that personally. I mean, we don't have to get into politics, but it's like, oh, he's barely running California. How is this going to
Even
work?
politics are gonna change, right? Because
I
it
hope.
rules. I mean, like, it it has to because Pluto's in Aquarius.
And the
And then
river
when
is
it comes
moving forward.
yeah,
It's like,
and
yeah,
when
the
it
change is
comes back,
happening.
well, we gotta go back, right? With Pluto going back into Capricorn,
Retro.
and then it will go back into Aquarius next year. So we're gonna see a lot of crazy well, we're already seeing a lot of
It's like a
crazy stuff.
preview and then like a last
Yeah.
fucking test and cap, which is,
Yep.
oh, now that you see, I get scared quickly. I'm not as positive as you. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen when Pluto dips right back with the scythe? It's like, oh, there's one survivor. Actually, I came back with my gun and then killed you in the room. Goodbye. Or whatever, right?
Oh,
It's like
no.
Terminator style.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us anything you want to talk about Pluto
I
archetypally
mean,
in terms
when
of
I
whatever.
even think about it, like there's so many mass shootings, right? Not that that's a
Mm.
positive subject, but Pluto and Aquarius, you know, lots of mass shootings. So that's something that we have to address because that's ridiculous. Every time we listen to the news, there's a mass shooting somewhere. So to me, it's like all these things that are really negative need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Now we don't have time, And then we've got what connection with the aliens or
Are you into
UFOs.
aliens? Are you into that? Because
I'm
that's one
pretty
thing I
much
haven't experienced
I'm
much.
open. I mean,
Open
like,
isn't believer, so it's like I'm open, but
well,
it's like I'm not like
well,
ET phone home or
well, I
whatever.
have had one experience, and it's not 100%, but I remember seeing something in
Like a
the
UFO.
skies.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it didn't look like a normal airplane, or it had different look to it. But the interesting thing is when I looked at it, because I'm so sensitive, I felt that thing was looking right back at me, and they knew
Right.
I was looking at it. Like, I was able, because I'm telepathic too. So
Right.
I was reading and I was like, "Oh, I think they're just like me." That was the first time I was like, "They're just like me. They can read minds."
It's like
And I was like
crossing of the
freaked
X-ray visions.
out. Yeah. Yep.
It's
Yep.
because
So,
I ate a lot of acid at one point, but I would look stargates out in Colorado, and I would be like, same thing where I'm like, is that a star or UFO? I couldn't tell because I was like, kind of tripping, and then I'd be like, it would be weird because I'm like, I think it's aware of me. I mean, that's the best
yeah,
way you could put
yeah,
it. Yeah, it's like I
yeah.
think it knows I'm watching it, which is a
Yeah, that's
weird kind of
exactly, it
feeling.
was all really fast, but I was like, "It knows that I know." But I was like, "That's just like me, though. I'm just like that, like, telepathic." Like, so I believe in UFOs for sure, and I think that we're gonna see a lot more of that coming up for sure,
Well, look at
or
the disclosure level
information
now.
about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's like
Yeah,
I'm not a believer, but it's like I can't
yeah,
refute that even the U.S. like the Pentagon is like everybody's like, look at all these videos.
All right,
I
then
mean,
just
it's
just as
loud
a
and proud,
public
right?
just as a
Yeah.
public service announcement, by now most people understanding politics or watching the news understand that usually what's coming out there is like usually the least true version of the things that are actually occurring. And I just like to point out that even recently, I think on Tucker Carlson or something, they had this big UFO disclosure show, but with Louis Elizondo, who is a known CIA asset. So I'm not saying now whether, how should I say, there's many strange things in the sky, there's all these experiences, there is definitely a truth to it. However, please don't expect it to come from
yeah,
the TV.
yeah,
And now that they talk about it so much,
Project
just means
Bluebeam.
they want to use it again for something crazy. And the real thing, of course, will be that everyone, shares their own experiences. This is what I always say. Then we don't need to rely on any centralized disclosure, because most
yeah,
likely, if they're going to play that, they're going to again try to use it to increase military spending or whatever other BS. So
right.
just want to say to be aware of it. But of course, generally speaking, it's very
Yeah,
interesting that now this really comes to the forefront again, just like we will discover exactly what's happening with any type of shooting or
yeah,
terrorism or whatever. But we really have to get to the bottom of it, to the real bottom of it, to be able
yes.
to resolve it. And maybe now it's the time. So I'm all for Pluto in Aquarius,
Me
let's
too.
go.
I'm all for this new energy coming in. How about
I'm
you,
fucking
Jim?
scared. I'm scared. I mean, to
Why
me, I'm
are
like
you
we're
yeah,
right at with a split. I feel, and this is like timelines and this vague kind of new age talk, where it's like, all right, look, guys, like between Chat GPT, crypto, globalization, things like what we're talking about, whether it's trustworthy or not, but like the maps are being updated very slowly, albeit profoundly. Right now, we're going through such a profound shift that it's like what it
right.
means to be human and what it means to be in a society and what it means to even the trans thing and AI and all this stuff. It's like, whoa,
Yeah,
we're at a very interesting human evolutionary juncture point.
we are
One that we
definitely.
have not fucked with before. I mean, it's cool to get TVs. It's cool. I mean, you get the whole singularity thing where it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, horse and buggy, cars, rockets. Oh my gosh,
Oh
internet. Here
my
we are.
gosh, cities in
Yeah.
space. Oh my
Uh, i-
gosh.
if it
Crazy.
goes well, how would I put it? My imagination. I've been reading a lot of Warhammer 40K. That might not help. It's like this dystopian, futuristic sci-fi thing. I feel like just I don't want to be naive. And just be like, oh, it's all just glowing. I would be pleasantly surprised. My non's a hardcore Christian. I'm like, I don't know if like the New Jerusalem's coming, but if it happens, I'll accept it. You see what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
I want the
Yeah.
best outcome for everything, but I'm not blind to the fact that there is pain, suffering. Like life seems to be
Yes.
fundamentally suffering in a Buddhist sense.
Yes.
So just to be like,
Yeah.
oh, everything's gonna be solved, just like that's naive. New
Yeah.
problems will arise. Like just because we decentralize stuff, now we've got what like 4,000 confederations all competing for like Doge or
Yeah.
whatever's going on. So I try to be
Exactly.
realistic. I guess the scary part to me is we've been socially engineered, and I'm guilty of this. I think we've been trying to ride the waves as well as we can with Team Rabbit Hole and Facebook and all these, algorithms and stuff like that. Um, YouTube even or whatever. But it feels like we have been for a few generations just a an experiment in technology and psyche and manipulation, and we
Yeah.
might feel, it's kind of like the frog in the kettle. It's like I don't even think we realize how boiling hot the water is. We've just gotten used to it, and something's going to give soon. And I don't know what that means. Does that mean
Yeah.
like, oh, all of a sudden Terminators are walking around? I hope not.
I
Does that
hope
mean
not.
we wake up from a Matrix and we were always see? It feels like that kind of thing is going to happen. Where it's like, okay, the DMT elves are here now, and now we're all breaking through at once. It's a so I get overwhelmed, and that's why I'm having to
Yeah.
learn like
Yeah.
centeredness and like silence and mindlessness in a sense because it's too easy for me to
Yeah.
play with fantasy just
Yeah.
readily.
Yeah.
So don't ask me. Is my that's why I ask people questions. I'm like, please help guide me through my nightmare that is life, because I feel like a
A lot of
goddamn
I think a lot of
kid.
people are going through that
Yeah, it's
too.
it's an
There's a
interesting
lot of
time.
fear. It's so interesting. But
So
I
how do
think
you
that
deal with
we're
fear? Like you
well,
personally?
I just
There's no
like you.
perfect answer, I get
Yeah,
that.
there's
Well, I
no
mean, look,
perfect answer.
one thing could be like, I nail it on the cross. That's a very kind of Christian symbolical thing where it's like that might have archetypal resonance. At most, be profoundly actually true metaphysically. At worst, it's a story that helps cathart or something. Just like I don't know. I guess knowing Zeus is on the mountain throwing thunderbolts during a horrible thunderstorm makes you feel a little better about it, or you know what I mean. It's like these are
Yeah.
evolved mechanisms of coping and mapping.
Yeah.
So when I hear about aliens and stuff, part of me is like, we don't even know what that means because I
Yeah.
feel like I've met transdimensional beings, but what does that mean? And then you'll have friends be like, those are demons, and it's like, well, it fits, but I don't want to believe that because I don't want to be an asshole. But it like I guess that could fit. It just gets tricky.
Yeah, it
That's
gets
the word I
tricky.
use. So I don't that yeah, this is part of the reason we have the podcast. I'm like, I want to talk to other people about their reality tunnels so I can maybe better inform mine because it feels like a kaleidoscope that's kind of going really fast. Like, Willy
Yeah,
Wonka,
I can feel it in
and the
you.
chocolate
It's
factory,
very
when they go
strong.
down that tunnel and it's
Yeah.
like, we don't know where we're going, and it's just like psychedelic. It's like that's about the rabbit hole for me right now, where it's just like, all right, what can I?
Well,
They're in the boat. They know that. They're like, okay, I can hold on to the rail of the boat, but otherwise, there's centipede video. You know what I'm talking about with Charlie and the Chocolate
I
Factory?
do.
Okay,
Yes.
not everybody does. Filmed in Munich, by the way. Fascinating film, but and for the record, that whole Gene Wilder scene where he's kind of limping along and everyone's like quiet and looking at Wonka coming out on the red carpet, and then he does a tuck and roll, and it's like, ta-da! That was
Yeah.
Gene Wilder's suggestion. He was like, he wrote it into the character. The director's like, do whatever you want. This is your dude, basically. And he's
Yeah,
like,
this
I
is
got
your
an
deal.
idea. They were not ready for that. That was actually like everyone being like, what is he doing? And then he did
That's
that.
kind
It's
of the
like,
world we're going into, it feels like,
yeah,
right?
fake it till you make it, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'll shut up because I'm Ratchet. But yeah, walk us through. And Raphael, I'm also curious. Like, how do you cope with overwhelm, fear, delusion, in spite? How do you reach forward without
Oh
like,
gosh.
you know, it's almost like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where it's like you got to reach for that lever through the bugs. It's like, okay, there's bugs. Get over the gross.
Yeah.
If we are going to die, right? It's like, okay, we got to shift the gear here, but it's going to have to overcome fear of the unknown, of the self,
For
all that.
me, I don't watch the news. Can't
Yeah, it's a
stand it,
good
right?
start.
That's number 1. Get rid of that one. And then what I do is like I said, I pay attention. Is it my body? Is it coming from toxins? That's number 2. Like,
Mm.
am I drinking too much coffee? Is that coffee? You know, I think about what I'm doing first, and then I take sage and I start saging my place. I take that I don't know what the name of that rock is, but it's one that diffuses negative energy. I think it's,
It's
Heavy
obsidian?
metal?
elite
Yeah,
shungite.
obsidian? Yeah, something like
Oh, you're
Elite.
that,
talking about
exactly.
rocks. I thought you meant like rock
Right,
and
right,
roll. I was like,
rocks,
what?
rocks. So I
Okay,
have
okay.
that with
Crystals.
me. I
Nice.
channel, like, not
No wonder
channel
Raphael's chill. Look at the size of that shit. What the heck was
exactly, he's
that? That was like
peaceful.
a comet. Like, what?
Yeah,
That's a
that
murder weapon.
dispels. It dispels, and,
That'll
I
keep away
mean
I'm
Terminators.
surrounded by those, yeah.
the other is I have to cut people out for a
Mm.
while because too much energy coming at me. Um, there's so many things you can do, but mostly
Practical things.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries, yeah. And then you got to look at your thoughts. It's easy to be fearful, even in astrology. You look at a chart. Oh my God, what transit is this? How is it going to come at me, right? Because you could see everything. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking out of fear. But then some things could actually happen exactly the way you see it.
Well, kinda
I've
like the
had that.
conjunction in 2020. I think everyone was like,
Exactly.
"Here comes a
That was
big
the
thing,
trip,
we don't
right?
know what, like, here's a
And then
waterfall edge, we
boom, it
don't
just,
know," and then it makes sense post the situation, but
yeah,
nobody would have said the globe would shut down COVID. Like, I don't think anybody was on
totally.
that wave,
Yeah, that
but it
was,
makes sense now. It's like shut down of the
and even
world, transformation. Go ahead.
yeah, even COVID, like, helped us look at our fear, how we think. A
Mm.
lot of fear was in the air. So a lot of it for me is just I start to put angelic music on if that's gonna help, or I put on
Sail away,
podcasts or
sail
something,
away.
listen
What kind of
to,
music? Well, specifically, angelic, I mean, are you talking about, like, tones or, like
yeah, like,
ABBA?
yeah, like I listen to Enigma, any kind of like music that kind of takes you, but makes you,
Ethereal stuffs.
yeah, makes you feel grounded and safe. I
Hmm.
always feel good with that. I call in my angels. I call in Archangel Michael. I call in Metatron. I do whatever I can, and
How
I
do you
feel
look at those things? Are they are see, to me, I'm almost like it's a Jungian archetype that we projected out that we're playing with, but
it's
that's a
real.
very okay, see,
It's
I was gonna say
real.
that's a very
Yeah.
materially reductionistic thing.
No, it's
Even though I
real. Like,
claim I don't wanna do that, I do that. So you think these are entities, other entities, not just like projections of the mind or whatever?
yeah, it's real. And the reason I know is because, like, an example, I went to the dentist one time and I was like, God, I'm kind of nervous. I don't feel like doing this right now. And then I said, Archangel Michael, or I'm sorry, Metatron, come in and just make me calm. And I swear, it's just like this calmness. I go, this is crazy. It's real. It really works. Like,
Hmm,
but then again, I'm really sensitive, so I feel it.
yeah,
If you're too scared, you're gonna close everything out. You're gonna be in your fear too strong, you
hmm.
know? But I used to be that way, so I understand that too. I'm
Yeah,
just
like, trusting things is hard for
I'm
me.
just trusting
That's
it.
where I'm at. See, you're
Yeah.
that's the point. It's like, at
It
some
took
point,
a
I've gotta
long
just be like,
time.
"Fuck it, who knows? I gotta trust something, I guess, other than
No, it
myself."
took a long time to get there. Most of my life was kind of like how you are, like, overthinking. Oh my gosh, this is happening. Oh, I don't even know. Where's that energy coming from? I'm so mad. I'm so frustrated. But
The
now I'm like,
Arcturians, man.
yeah.
I'm kidding. Kind of.
So it's just trust, faith.
Yeah. Trust
Faith
the
is
process.
huge.
You're not, you're exactly what
What
I
is,
feel like saying these things doesn't make it feel true. Like, I can bumper
yeah.
sticker, "You're exactly where you need to be," or "Nothing you meant
Oh,
for you
it's
is
so
gonna
hard,
pass." And then
huh?
I'm like, "Is it true or is it real? How am
Nep
I duping myself? What's a mantra? Like, what
Think
is
about this.
psychosomatic?"
Neptune's in Pisces. So it's
Yeah.
all about faith. That's the whole message.
Yeah.
Trust the universe. Are you more into your fear, Neptune in Pisces, or are you more into your faith? It's very serious. Like,
Yeah.
that's what the whole Neptune in Pisces is.
Well,
So
it
that
feels like,
we,
being on a boat at night in the ocean, it's like, there's probably not sea monsters, but you don't know that, right? So it's
no,
like,
I'm all about it.
yeah, so it's like,
Yeah,
I wanna swim, but my god, I've seen
I don't want to go in
whatever,
the ocean.
Prince Caspian in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That sea monster is crazy. Um,
Yeah.
no, I need to take some of this stuff to heart. I can tend to just hijack and get mental. I know that. I gotta work on that. But,
Yeah.
so it seems like you're more prepared emotionally for the unfolding events. Raphael is, like, very zen. He's the caterpillar in
Yeah,
fucking
he
Alice in
is.
Wonderland
Or
about it,
Zen,
yeah.
very
Uh
down to earth.
Or yeah, I feel bad. I definitely shed like a I'm
No,
the
you're
chihuahua
good.
here.
You're
It's like,
good.
"Oh, guys, what do we do? Oh my god, oh my god." It's like, "Where's my treat?" Because I don't smoke right now or drink or anything, so I don't have I'm doing this sober. I'm raw dogging this. I'm just like, "Oh, wow. This is."
Yeah.
I used
Oh,
to
I gotta go
cope
back.
better. Well, I don't
Yeah.
gotta, but, I don't actually appreciate being kind of, like, foggy. I like
Yeah.
the clarity, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I feel a lot more and I sense a lot, it's just like I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you wanna turn down the TV volume, and it's like, that stuff does that. It
I'm
helps.
also a spiritual warrior, meaning I
House.
think we all are. Yeah, it helps really because I want to grow and expand, and I want to
Mhm.
be able to handle like what's coming at me. I'm not saying I do excellent, but
You wanna
I
know kung
want to get.
fu. You're like,
Yeah, I feel
"Alright."
like what's going on now for the world is kind of like the world I've been living in anyway. It's
Mm,
intense, right? So
mm,
for me, it's like I want to get to that point. where I can handle. I came here for a reason. At this time, I chose it. So when I think of it that way, I don't want to be in my fear, you know. I want to overcome it or embrace not embrace it, but just I want to evolve. And
Well, I
I'm
think we're all
oh,
forced down that. Oh, we're embarked on the
yeah,
evolutionary fucking trip, no matter how
yeah.
we cut it.
It's
It's funny.
either going to be scary or it's going to be fun. It's a
It's
choice.
both. Let's
Yeah.
see. That's at my best places when I'm lucid with psychedelics. If I trip more often, I feel like I shed a lot of this electromagnetic static. For better or worse, I don't know why it humbles me. And if
Mhm.
I'm coming from a more humble place, I'm like, I don't know. And that as opposed to when I'm not humbled, I'm like, I can get my head around this. I can get my head,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
feels like that's the energy that kind of works against me. It's like
Yeah.
it's weird. It's like our identities. It's like your greatest power and your greatest uh, issue. It's like Superman has kryptonite or whatever. It's like Gemini's
Yeah.
overthink.
Yeah.
12th house Cancerians are like maybe gonna be off in their own little world a little more or whatever, like
But
emotionally.
I
And
got a lot of Gemini in me too.
I
I
gotta
mean,
check.
lots. Yeah,
Let's
it's
look.
Mercury's in Gemini, but then I've got all that third
Mercury's
house
exalted. There you go. Yeah.
energy.
Okay. So Pluto in well, no, that's not Gemini. What am I looking at? Okay.
And then
Yeah.
if you look
Mercury.
at third
Go ahead.
house, there's a lot of Gemini energy there. So I know exactly what you mean. Your mind could play tricks on you.
It's what it does. I mean, look, if I get super like stoic about it, I'm like, oh shit, it's all imagination, and then it gets
Yeah.
articulated into form, and then the form tries to tell the imagine. It's like a weird dance, and psychedelics help
Yeah.
me play with that level. Like if I'm tripping often enough, I'm like, I see it more that way, and I'm more excited and happy. I mean, I'm talking to myself and I was like, maybe I should trip.
Yeah.
But but I don't want to depend on those things because it feels like it clears the static, but I want to be able to do that without having to rely on extreme methods. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you can go fast for 40 days in the wilderness, but it's like you can also
To
maybe do
me, I feel like it's better not to be on anything right now with these energies coming in. You want to be clear as can be, you
yeah.
know, because your mind will play tricks on you, especially think about it. Pluto's in Aquarius. I mean, that could be dark with the mind.
Hmm.
So we want to think about those things. For me, I feel I have lots of clients that I work with, that I have to guide. So I have to stay grounded. I have no choice because there's things coming at me that could be a lot, and people are going through so much. I mean,
Yeah. Every
individually,
day
so
feels like a
much.
fucking lifetime at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
about
then
you, but it's like every day
for
is
me,
like this
it's
is packed.
like, if it gets overwhelming because you've got clients, like I said, that's when I cut everybody out for a moment, like a week,
It's a
my
hot
family,
moment.
whatever. Yeah,
152nd
exactly, and then
of the Gregorian calendar. Goodbye.
then I start to listen to things that I like, and I just
Raise your
do my
vibes.
little art. When I do my planet news, I'm generally in that flow energy that keeps me grounded. You would think, like I'm doing it for everyone else, but I'm telling you, it's a lot for myself. I'm just sharing my world to the world,
I
but
totally know
it's
what you mean.
mainly to keep me grounded.
Yeah, it's like it's like altruistic selfishness. It's like this is you will appreciate this, but
Yeah,
I do it for
it
me.
really is. It really
Uh,
is.
yeah.
That's how I feel. Like, wow, I'm doing this for myself, but people are benefiting, so why not? Right?
So we've got your website, planetnewsbyzoe.com. People
Yeah.
should check it out. What kind of offerings do you do? And yeah, kind of tell
I
us what your plan is. Hopefully
I
you're not off for
mainly
weeks or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mainly do birth chart readings if
Mm,
somebody wants to know about themselves, like where their planets are. But then I also do solar returns, which would be when the sun comes back to the same degree as your sun placement, which would be yours June 17th.
mm.
It will give information about the year ahead. So I do that. I also do progress charts, which will explain about where you've evolved to.
So
So you're
quick
a
pause there.
Gemini.
I
Yeah,
know, but I'm a progressed Leo, a whole lot of Leo going on,
right,
and
right.
yeah. So
So
how do you interpret that? So that's see, these are one of the things where I started being like, hey, it can't be a Chinese, like a China vase as well as a platinum vase at the same time. Like, how is this possible? You know what I mean? I'm like, so progress charts. I look at almost like as a how would I put it? This is and tell me if I'm wrong or not. It's like you have an imprint, I guess, with the solar birth chart. It's like that's who you are, and then there's this like weird holographic drag that's
Yeah.
like it's
That
almost like a smeared bad digital kind of effect or something.
isn't that
And that's the
amazing?
progressed. But
Yeah.
how do you break it down in your own mind intuitively? It's like because I mean, it's not the same information, if that makes sense. It's like
Right,
all of a sudden
right.
you're like, I'm a
You
different
know,
thing.
I look at it like the progressed is your soul, where,
Okay.
well, everybody's going to have a different point of view, but mine is more where your soul has evolved to, right? Because it's evolution. So if I look at a progressed and I see that now you have planets in the seventh house where they were all in the sixth house of work, you're progressing more towards people, relationships. You're more interested in relationships. You're going to be dealing more with relationships, you know. It depends on where those planets are, you know. But I think it's just fascinating that you could see the evolution of a person. The moon's going to change every 2 to 2.5 years. You're going to feel different, you
Mm.
know. So it just depends.
My
Depends.
progressed moon is Scorpio, and I hate it. And now that you
Oh,
see it, if I'm geeking out like this, it's like I got a
wow.
lot of weird shit going on. I think
You
my
can't
progressed
wait till it goes into
stuff.
Sagittarius, huh? It's gonna be
I don't
so
know.
fun.
This intensity is too much. It's just
But
like this.
it's
I
just
can't chill. It's
yeah,
obsessive.
it's just
It's like
intense. And then your south node is right now in Scorpio, so it's like double whammy, huh? For
it's a
you.
trip. Honestly, I'm at a point where it's like if there was a button to end the simulation, I'd push it. Like I'd just be
Yeah.
like, look, I don't know, man. I just like what's the next level? I can't beat this duck hunter game. I don't know what's going on here. This is crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
nihilistic, but it's dark. It's heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. I could feel it coming through you. Some grounding. You need something to ground yourself. That's all it
Well,
is.
I gotta
If
just
you just get grounded, you're fine.
I
You're
no, it
flying.
happened the other day. Like it felt like I got into my body and my mind went to like no mind. And then it's like
Mhm.
all the clutter, all the static is just like gone, but
Mhm.
it feels like I step up into this place and it's like as long if I don't, if I mean it's so
Yeah.
easy and obvious, but it's like I'm selfish and lazy and fucking distractible. So
Yeah, you are.
makes it really
Very
fucking hard to focus and like commit to a practice like that.
No, all you need is to be grounded, that's it,
I'm
and
gonna
you'll
nail
be
myself to the
fine.
floor, kids.
Yeah.
It's
No,
gonna be
find someone that can help you ground. Like, I never knew what grounding meant until I met this chiropractor that
mm,
I don't even know, it's crazy,
gotta get their
but I
chart. It's like,
oh
oh, you guys
god,
were friends in the past life or whatever.
it's crazy, but he was reading, like, the other side or something, so he was a different chiropractor. He was amazing, but
So, like, on
he
the
was
outside,
like
he was pushing your back, but on the inside, he's like, there's a chakra." Like, that's what
he's
you mean
like,
he was doing
"Zoe."
multi-level stuff?
He's like, "You're following everything I'm doing." And I said, "Well, mentally I am." But I guess that's in the psychic world. He was sensing it all. And then he grounded me to the
Hmm.
ground. And I never had that grounding before. And I was like, that's what it feels like. This feels good. Like you're calm, you're peaceful, you don't have anxiety.
You feel like a
You're
cow in
more
a field just eating grass. It's just like, I'm just
well,
being.
you
It's
can
not
think
hard.
straight. You can think. When you're like
Yeah.
flying everywhere, it's an anxious feeling. You know what I
It's like
mean? And
trying to
you're like,
think on a roller coaster with a few cups of
yeah, it's
coffee. It's like,
crazy.
it's not
So
easy.
you just need a big rock to hold you down.
I'll figure something
Use
out.
that
Yeah.
rock Raphael has.
Raphael,
Use this.
project astrally this rock to my presence, please.
Seriously.
Um, I don't know.
I
Dream
can
it for me,
send you
Raphael.
one.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
You're like a
I'll probably
fly. It's like,
Oh, it's I'm aging. I feel bad for Raphael. Anybody in my this is where it gets
he's
hard. Where I'm
just
like, I should.
watching.
Yeah, well, he's holding his space, but I'm like, it feels radioactive. I feel like I'm contaminating people, but it's like, what are you gonna do?
No, you're
Um,
fun.
well, thankfully, you feel that way. Um,
Contaminating people with what?
just not even high vibe. That sounds like positive. It's just like anxiety. Like I feel it
Yeah,
because I would say
Yeah,
it
but
depends on
think
my
about it.
thing.
How many people are anxious right now?
Well, that's
so
my
true.
point. It feels like I'm tapping it because on Placidus, I think my Mercury and Mars are in 11th house as opposed to 12th. But it feels like I'm like a conduit for the zeitgeist overall energetically. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like like in
Hmm.
California, you guys have earthquakes. It's like the Richter thing.
Yes.
It feels
Yes.
like I'm just like
That.
Richtering for everybody,
See,
and it's just
Alicia
like,
gives a good
ah,
recommendation. You can always try the Wim Hof method. Step into a super cold shower.
I'm
Yeah.
afraid. No, I'm not afraid. I
Just
just
step
it's
in
like
a
that's
cold shower.
uncomfortable. I'm a bitch like that. It's like my
Yeah.
feet and hands are always cold. Why would I do that to myself?
I
But
think
no, it's
you love it actually
love
to be
what?
flying. to be flying. It's fun
Well, it's
for you.
entertaining.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think you're
but
enjoying it.
it's fun, but then you start realizing that like you're going 120 down the road without a seatbelt, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? You know what I mean? It's like
What?
the moment
Yeah.
catches up with you, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
what have I done? Are there any thoughts or kind of things we have not touched on? 144, of course. That we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about, or have we kind of covered all the bases? How do
I think we covered lots of bases,
All
right?
right. Here's one thing. If you could just drive by, shoot, and you don't have to go deep into a reading or anything. Look at Raphael's chart. Look at my chart. Tell us one thing each. I guess grounding for me, but anything
I
other
gotta
than that.
turn my phone on
Get the tech going. Pluto and Aquarius.
because I do want
Resurrect.
it ringing. Sometimes
Um,
it's like
no,
crazy.
that makes sense. And the gods let you have power. So, amen. If there's any kind of just like whatever kind of fish slap in the face for a parting sentiment, in terms of our charts. If there's anything that you're like, yo, watch out, you gotta fucking get your act together or whatever. I don't know. You're the mystical sage here for the
Well,
moment,
let
and
me
then
see if you
but I'm
have.
putting you on the spot. So I'm if you're like fuck off, I'd be like okay, whatever, sure, I tried.
No,
Uh, might as
no, I
well
just
rub the
have the
genie's
chart.
bottle.
I would normally go to your progress because I love looking at the progress, but Jim, okay, so oh wow, so the south node is headed towards your Pluto. See, that's why I turned my phone off. Too many people text.
Oh, she's popular. It's the winning lotto numbers coming through. Tick, 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 tick.
Is your Pluto in Scorpio?
Scorpio.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you're gonna have like that lunar eclipse is coming very close. Is it at 16 though? Let me
I don't
see.
remember off the top of my head, but I just know that life sucks. But it's like I feel like I'm
Oh,
birthing out of a dragon's egg. It's like I'm going to be better, but this is not fun. It's a weird time. It's a weird time. Like every day is an
well,
apocalypse. Let's
well,
put it that
I
way.
for you, Black Moon Lilith is going through your 12th house right now, so no wonder why it's so weird. That's crazy. Do you know what Black Moon
Yeah,
Lilith is?
yeah. It's
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
not totally, but it's like this is why I don't trust anything. I feel like everything's a delusion.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so
what is truth? What is going on here? Like, my
well,
dreams,
Black
my
Moon
hopes.
No, and then
Why?
you're gonna have, I mean, a solar eclipse coming close to your
I
natal
should probably just
Placidus.
hit you up. Honestly, I'll probably
Yeah.
hit you up for a reading and be like, "Look, I asked for like a drive by, but you're scaring
Okay.
me now. You're like,
Okay.
here come all the goblins, bro." And it's like,
All
dude,
right.
what?
That solar
So much for
eclipse
acid
coming.
next month or
That
whatever.
solar eclipse is coming, right?
I think
April
it's this
19th or
19th. Yeah,
20th.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It basically makes a close conjunction to your Black Moon Lilith. So you might
It's
be
a good day
feeling a
not to
lot.
do drugs.
It's a good day not to do drugs, seriously. You don't want to mess with that. Black
No,
Moon Lilith could bring a lot of fear and darkness,
for sure.
scariness. It could also be a release in your ninth
I'll take
house of
that.
your mind. But Black Moon Lilith is running through your 12th house as well. And that's going to bring up, a release in the 12th house. You might feel fear. You might be tired. You might feel like you don't care anymore, because it's a 12th house. I mean,
Mm.
those two things I see for sure. And that is yours. Let's see what.
Gracias, by the way. I
Oh, you're
just being
welcome.
knowledge fails, but awareness cures. So it's like I just want to be aware, guys. I don't.
And
The
then
details don't matter.
we're having a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, right? Right after this solar eclipse. I don't know the exact date.
The solar one's in Aries,
Yeah, and I
right?
believe,
Because the sun,
yeah,
yeah. Dude, I
let me
fell off the
make
fucking
sure.
astro wagon. That's my point. It's like I'm
No,
not
I
like
think,
I used to pull cards every day and be like, "This is where things are." I would have been way more in tune. I'm like, I couldn't even tell you where
yeah,
Mars is right now.
we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in May, and it's going to come right between Raphael's Pluto and Venus. So
Time
something
for a sex
coming up.
change, Raphael. No, I'm kidding.
Good luck.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm just being a dick.
No, this is home, family. Something going on in your family right now? Some changes coming up? Are you planning on
Mhm.
moving or is there
Maybe.
anything up? Yeah.
I don't know it.
And
Basically,
your love life, because it's conjunct
oh, this is what I like
Venus.
to hear.
Yeah.
There, as Melissa would
So a
say.
big transformation coming there, maybe a decision coming up, but there's definitely a transformation because that's going to hit in May. And then we have, yeah, it's exciting, but it just means that you may make a transformation regarding a home family situation.
Cool.
It's time to hit the
Yep.
road, Raphael. Let's do it.
What's
Yeah.
going on there?
I'm just
And
right
then,
now chatting with someone, and we just talked about, how much time to stay home, when is it time to maybe always be gone or be,
yeah,
traveling around. So
you're
You're
ready. You're
talking my
ready to
language,
get
bro.
out of the house. But Black Moon Lilith is also traveling through your 12th house as well. So there's a lot of release going on. Now, my mother has Black Moon Lilith traveling in her 12th house, and she's extremely tired. But,
Hmm.
she's had
I take
lots of
naps
help.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Black Moon Lilith traveled in Cancer, it was my whole 12th house, one of the most healing transits I went through. I
Hmm.
started doing yoga. I felt really good. I just was like releasing. So for you two, it's release. It's release in the 12th house, the mind, subconscious. You could be fearful. You could be mad because Black Moon Lilith in the 12th house can make you get pissed off easy. So you got to watch out there. Easy.
Yeah. I'm a
But
walking maniac these days. It's nuts. Ask my nana. I'm like, how do you know what's true? How dare you have a faith? I'm like
but
Voltaire
that
up in here. It's not
that
good.
Black Lilith is huge for both of you right now for like either changing, letting go of something that you've been holding back on, releasing, clearing out, but it could make you fearful and that might be what's going on with Jim. Yeah. But it's also positive. It's good. You want it to. When Black Lilith enters your first house, oh my gosh, that's like you both just going, here I am. I want to start new things. I'm not
We'll hang
holding
out
back
then,
anymore.
Raphael. That's when
Yeah,
we
it's
meet.
so cool.
what is the timing on this? Like, how long is it in one house usually, or
I don't
Yeah,
even know.
Black
Black Moon
Lilith,
Lilith, a year maybe? I
yeah,
wouldn't even
it's like
know.
9 months.
Okay,
So
it's a hot
when
minute. So next year, Raphael will meet.
But
Okay.
actually not because he is a Leo rising at 21 degree. I don't know the exact timing when it's going to cross over, but probably in September, it's going to enter your first house more than likely and then you're going to feel like everything that you kind of held back on, you're going to go no more holding back. I'm here. Ta-da. You're going to be like that. Cuz that's
I'll
how I
talk
am right
more.
now cuz it's in my
I'll
first
be the
house.
quiet
So
one.
yeah, exactly. So right now you might have a little bit of fear going on with you guys in the mind or just releasing wanting to let go of something, getting pissed off or not even getting pissed off, just wanting to let go, you
Yeah.
know. So,
Like for me, it's certainty. It's like certainty is an illusion,
yeah.
but how do I sit in that well without trying to grasp at comforts, maps that are
Yeah.
comfortable? It's like what's true as opposed to like, oh, this feels good. It's like feeling good isn't true. Everybody's feeling good about their worldview. That doesn't make it true. It's like back
Right,
to square
right.
one. What the fuck?
Everybody's
So,
individual right now.
yeah.
We're back to square one.
So I guess if there's any parting kind of statements to wrap up this pony ride with, it doesn't have to be super profound, but if there's anything that you want to say to the people or about yourself or just kind of wisdom of the moment, whatever's clever,
Well,
now is the moment.
I mean, we have a solar eclipse coming up at 29 degrees Aries. This is all about you, your desires, what you want to who you want to be, how you want to bring out your truth. So, to me, this solar eclipse is your ticket to going in your direction of choice. What you've been feeling and holding back on within yourself, it's time to grab it. Go for it. It could be spiritual, it could be physical, it could be a change in your environment, but whatever that is, it's time to step up and don't be scared. Like,
I won't say I channeled, but the idea of Freddie Mercury's "Fat Bottom Girls," get on your bikes and ride. It's like, all right,
yeah,
we got it. We
yeah,
got to get
let's
on our
do
bikes and
it.
ride, man. Gotta do it. I will do something that I've been doing at the end of these Yogi Tea, which I'm not paid by, but you would think I'm like a corporate entity of theirs with all this plugging I do. Yogi Tea has these little quotes that are great. And today's, I mean, I just get a tea out, and they're really tasty. Actually, it's ginger pepper, black pepper, ginger, or something like that. Lemon pepper, lemon ginger with black pepper notes. It's so good.
That's so
It's like
funny.
Halloween in a cup. If you let it steep for like a few hours, it's like this is Harry Potterville or whatever. It's
Yeah.
so good. Anyway, it says, "Be fearless. Know that all will be provided at the right time." So I think that's
Yes.
apropos as fuck. Raphael just rolls his eyes like, yeah, man, shut the fuck up, Jim. It's like, I just gotta cry this out. I'm a Mars in Cancer. Anyway, Raphael, any kind of parting thoughts?
Oh, thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for coming
having
on.
me.
Hopefully, we didn't bore you or scare you. You flowed well. You flowed perfectly. So I'm glad you came on. We
Thank
made it through the
you.
moon void into Aquarius, but
Yeah, I'm
ultimately,
ready.
people check out our page. I'll probably highlight you at some point. Thank you for giving us your time and energy,
Thank
and I hope
you.
you have a beautiful evening.
You too. Bye-bye.